Hello everyone. Hello. Are we well? I'm alive. That's the kind of big news, really. If you take one thing away from tonight's proceedings, it's that I, Kevin Logan, am alive. And to be honest with you, given that we're about to watch some award-winning gerbalism from Laura Koonsberg, it's probably the only true thing you'll fucking hear today. So, you know. At long last I'm free. Oh, because France has been abolished. Yes, that's well. Enjoy. Hello there, Luke Mason was taken 2134124 for your amusing string of numbers. Because presumably the first hang on, how many numbers is that? 213,000. No, hang on. No, there's one more. 2,134,123 Luke Mason was taken accounts presumably were not actually taken. So you've added those numbers for some other reason, I imagine. I don't know. Don't forget, I am alive, and thus I need sustenance in the form of food and things like that. I also have bills and stuff, which, you know, are about as welcome as a bout of arseache. But they are things that happen. And yes, you can help me with all of those things if you wanted to. It's been a tricky few weeks for the Kev, but you can assist me in the ways that you usually do, in the form of bits, subs, Patreon, PayPal, memberships, super chats, these sorts of things. I've also got Discord, YouTube, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. That is an amusing cartoon. Because it's in Britain it's Wally, in America it's Waldo, because Waldo is the name of people. And it's hard to find, and then because he's there. You see what they've done there? It's very, very clever. Anyway, we're supposed to be on with No Justice in just a moment, but I don't know what she's up to. Oh, here she is.
Oil like a baby otter.
My fucking earphones are bollocks. Hello. Helena. I can't fucking hear you, so clearly my headphones are bollocks. Brilliant. 1 second. Hello.
Oil like a baby otter.
Helena, please say things. No, she's not in the meeting. Okay. Spectacularly well, as always.
I don't want to do this
I
anymore.
really don't. You're quite right, Mark. Leftist audio. Well, no, leftist audio would at least be audio. This isn't audio. This is Nordio. Thank you, Carl Brown, for gifting a membership. Thank you, Carl Brown, for gifting another membership. And thank you, Flint Reed. It says, feel better with electrical dollar pounds, Kev. I do already. Thank you. Hang on a minute. I don't know why it keeps fucking happening. Kev, I do already. Thank you. That's not at all what I meant to do. Is Helena?
They do have the microphone being detected by Teams, by the Meet.
Hello.
Someone tell Kevin that it's the meeting
Hello.
is picking up my microphone.
See, I don't think it is. Hello.
Hello.
Fucking hell, I hate Google Meet so much. I'm going to go to the home of Mr. Google Meets and fucking terms of service the cunt. Oh, sorry, that has annoyed me. Anyway, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
I was doing fine, but technology again.
Can you hear me now then?
I can hear you perfectly, crisply.
Perfect.
Indeed.
Right, okay, we're good now. I don't know what was going on there before. You said you just have to leave and rejoin to fix it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying the Unabomber had the right idea.
No, we're not saying that at all.
I'm just saying technology is bad.
It is, yeah.
You know? Anyway. God, I do push the line sometimes.
Partner push 2025, let's go.
It's never happening. Never going to happen. Honestly, you're going to be like the fucking Prime Minister or something, and I'm still going to be fucking tattling around here going, oh, Luigi Mangioni's corpse, I'm going to finger him, or whatever, you know.
You have a niche, Kev. You have a USP.
I do have a niche, and it's often the anal crevasses of dead people, which is certainly not a niche that Coca-Cola want to be anywhere near. They just like giving money to Nazis. That's a thing that happened. Yeah, Coca-Cola. Yeah. I fucking know about you, cunts. Anyway.
Lewis says in chat, apparently Adrien Ramsey was soying out an LBC and attacking Zach Polanski. You can't wait to vote him out this summer? Me neither, Lewis. I also cannot wait to vote out Adrien Ramsey.
Hang on. Firstly, we need links to that. You can't tease us with that.
Yeah, give us the linky, Zach. Zach Lewis, give us the linky. We want the link.
Yeah, well, that has to happen because that sounds amazing. That's like proper drama, but in Parliament.
Yeah, we need to be able to mock Pylon Man.
True, fucking old Pylon. No, I was about to say Pylon nonce. No, that didn't need to happen. Glad I pulled myself back from saying it. Really.
Yeah.
Anyway,
exactly. Wave a burger in his face.
I will happily wave a burger in the man's face because why not? It was the highlight of his existence, I think. Apparently, they are doing a Luigi musical on Broadway. Oh, that's amazing! I can't wait. I mean, I would go to America, but I would definitely end up in an El Salvadorian fucking torture camp.
Yeah.
You know. And I'm going to be the only white boy there, so, you know. Bad times. I could start my own white supremacist gang by myself. I think that's the only gang a white boy can join in prison, isn't it? I don't know. Are there any other... Maybe some prison aficionados can tell me. Are there other white boy gangs? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, okay. Shall we get on with some...
Let me see if I can find this Adrien Ramsey.
Well, that's what I was thinking, but I don't know how reliable Lewis is. No offence, Lewis. I don't want to cast aspersions upon your link-finding abilities, but I don't want to also wait forever. So... I don't know.
Let me have a look. I mean, I've got a quote here from the political correspondent at LBC, saying what I would argue is it wouldn't just look really odd. It would be difficult to operate in practice. Saying he thinks the next leader should be an MP. That's the only thing that I can see so far in terms of a quote on Twitter.
Well, that was my objection really to Polanski. But if the reason that Carla doesn't want to do it is because it's too difficult to do that and be an MP, then I don't know. What's the game here? What are the rules? I don't know.
Also, apparently, there was the letter demanding Levi Lammy coming clean over the allegations that the UK has exported arms to Israel despite their supposed suspension. Adrien Ramsey is the only Green MP not to sign the letter. What the fuck's he playing at?
Oh, he's a wanker. Clearly, he's actually just a wanker. Like, he's weirdly, let's say, questionable when it comes to gender issues. He's, I mean, obviously a bit of a fucking pylon wanker. He's also, sort of NIMBY-ish and weak sauce when it comes to the big foreign policy issue of our day. So, like, he's just sort of fucking useless.
Yeah, what wet blanket? What?
Well, quite so.
Ben, do you ever, I've just popped the global player link to the thing in chat in our Twitter. Twitter DMs, Kev.
Yeah.
Ben, do you have a timestamp for when for when the Adrien Ramsey comes on the broadcast.
Thank you, Sibwell, for resubscribing. Firstly, 45 months, mental. And secondly, are we waving burgers in people's faces as a new intimidation tactic? No, that actually happened to Adrien Ramsey back when he was vaguely reasonable or whatever. When he was on with Nick Robinson, the then... do I have to sign into Global Player?
If you're logged in at Facebook, just sign with Facebook and it does automatically. That's what I do.
Facebook. Okie dokie, where are we? Continue as Kevin. Yes, I will continue as Kevin, thank you.
Now, it may have
I will not
escaped
be
your attention.
changing to Sebastian anytime soon.
We've got... it's only 9 minutes and 50, so we could just play the whole thing.
Yeah, sure.
Okie doke. Where are we? Oh, you have to go to there, and then...
It's the 10-minute segment, yeah.
There we go. Righto. I don't know why it's squidged all the way in that corner, but...
You can make it full screen, right?
Can I?
In the bottom right.
Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Now, it may have escaped your attention, and if so, shame on you. But later this year, the Green Party is going to have a leadership election. Currently, they have two co-leaders, Carla Denyer, from whom we heard earlier in this week saying she would not be standing again. Indeed, she would be focusing.
I think you mean friend of the show, Carla Denyer.
Friend of the show?
Friend at show.
Friend at show?
Because you've spoken to her, so that counts.
I did interview her. You did. It's like don't call her Tiny Queen. Don't call her Tiny Queen. Don't call her Tiny Queen.
See, I just would. And that's why you get to interview them, and I don't. Because I would just go, so, and joining us, the MP for Islington North, Jeremy Corbyn.
I mean, I was trying to not call him the Jam Man or Jumbly Crumbles.
Well, I literally did, on the 80th anniversary of Hitler unaliving himself, I literally started the show off with, look, for those who don't know, I do a fake eulogy when like a bad person dies, and then I do a crab dance, like it's a ha 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 reveal, we're happy this person's dead. And so I did that at the start of the thing for the 80th anniversary, and I started going on about Hitler, acme of evil, terrible, blah blah blah, and there was a picture of Jeremy Corbyn on the screen. And I went, oh no, that wasn't meant to be that one, it's meant to be this one. You know? See, that's the joke for me that will never not be funny, but I hope he never ever sees it. Because that would break me.
Focusing instead on her work as MP for Bristol Central. We heard from last week from the Deputy Leader, Zach Polanski, who all but confirmed, very cheekily on his part, all but confirmed that he was going to stand, and then confirmed it 24 hours later on this show. And now we're going to talk to Adrien Ramsey, co-leader with Carla Denyer at the moment of the Green Party in England and Wales, who I hope is going to be even a little less coquettish about these matters. Adrien Ramsey, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Let's just start with that. Are you going to be standing again in this leadership election?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question today, but what I do want to say today, what I do want to say today,
keep teasing me, you Greens.
I've been working closely with Carla Denyer over the last 4 years as co-leader of the party, and so what I want to do today is to share.
Here's a question for you. I'm just going to throw it in there because I don't care for niceties. If he ran for party and party leader and won, how would you feel about that?
I probably would leave the party, to be honest.
That's I was thinking you probably would, yeah. But I just wanted to ask anyway because I am a shitster.
Well, the thing is, I think it's very unlikely that he would win, and that's the thing, right? My position on the Green Party, I think, it's the most viable kind of left-wing party that we have, and I support a lot of what the other members of the party support. But if Adrien Ramsey were to win the leadership, it shows that I'm just completely living in cloud cuckoo land, right? I'm Delulu. If I think that I have anything personally in common with the Green Party membership, if they would elect Adrien Ramsey as leader on his own, like that proves that I'm wrong about the party.
True.
My deep thanks and appreciation to Carla for all that she's brought.
Also, he has the shittest art on his walls. Just bird sketches, and then there's an elephant. Well, that's just depressing. Are you in a fucking hotel?
It does look like hotel artwork, doesn't it?
Yeah.
to the party's leadership over the last 4 years as a highly valued colleague. Her commitment, her integrity, her incisiveness, her friendship. We have led the party together.
You're laying it on a bit thick
most...
there, aren't you, Adrien Ramsey? Come on. Give us a bit more
well,
of a clue about what you're going to do. Are you minded to stand? Would you like to be leader again?
Well, let me finish my answer because that might give you a clue, Lewis.
Go on. Okay.
I really want to thank Carla because we have worked together very successfully. I look forward to working with her more as MPs in the future. We have led the party through its most successful ever period. We have seen an increase in the number of Green councillors from 450 to 850. Greens going from being in 5 administrations on councils around the country to 40. We're a serious part of the national political landscape and local government. And we've done what so many commentators thought we couldn't do at the general election. We've gone from 1 MP to 4 and a record vote. And we've done that by taking Green values out to the wider audience. Carla and I have shown that as party leaders, there's no point in just speaking to a base vote. You need to speak to the wider public. And that's why I do think we need to have leaders who are MPs, who've got the track record of winning first past the post election.
Okay. Old fucking cunty bollocks is playing politics. Okay. We get it. You want to run, and you know that Zach Polanski, as a not MP, is the person you're likely to be up against. This is weak sauce. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say, oh, yes, I'm running for leadership.
I know, right? And that's the thing as well, is that he says, oh, well, we have a track for being successful in first past the post elections. But we are targeting a wide base to bring Green values to the wider public rather than trying to target specific groups. I'm like, well, these two dynamics are completely opposed to each other. The whole point of things like Target to Win and going for specific seats is you are targeting a demographic. You are looking for an individual seat that you win based upon the demographics that it represents, rather than a wide but shallow base, right? Yeah. That's the difference between a big party under first past the post and a small party. Big parties want a shallow and wide base, whereas a smaller party wants a deep but narrow base, because you want to target the specific seats that you think you have the demographics to win, and then heavily focusing on their issues. Saying you want a wide kind of cadre of people, a wide cohort of people that supports you, is the opposite of what we actually did in the election. In the election, we have these Bristol and Brighton highly progressive metropolitan urban voters who are going to hyper target, and then we had these localized conservationists in Herefordshire and Waveney Valley that we hyper-targeted, and there was no specific demographics. We weren't taking Green values to wider electorate at all. Quite the opposite. Isn't always chatting shit.
Yep.
Elections, because if you can't do that, if you can't take your message as a party to the wider public, win first past the post elections, you're nowhere in the British political debate. And the heart of British politics is in Westminster, so it would be very odd, having just got 4 MPs elected, to go back to a system of having a party leader outside Westminster. So clearly the 4 MPs have been talking about what we think are the right combination of candidates. There will be an announcement very soon, but all I can say today is
he sounds like a fucking politician.
I mean,
he just sounds like a Westminster wanker. What the fuck?
Nothing could be further away from the sincerity and the down-to-earth communication that the current moment requires.
Demands.
Yeah, demands, exactly.
Yeah.
Than what we're being served up by Adrien Ramsey. This absolute nonsense, right? Ben pointing out that he sounds like he is accusing Zach Polanski of engaging in student politics. Yeah, basically that sounds like what he is.
Well, he's the sensible adult in the room because he got elected under first past the post to be in the room.
Literally, I am going to make a controversial statement here, and I'm going to say that Adrien Ramsey is a briefcase wanker.
It's so true. He is. I mean, I called him a Westminster wanker, which is basically the same thing. Yeah, he is. He really is.
100% full on.
In the fullness of time, I'll make a statement to the House regarding whether or not I may have inadvertently misled them by being accidentally not drunk. Or whatever. Exactly. Overtired. Yeah.
And that's the thing, right, is that he is, again, trying to throw shade at Zach, who is trying to target a specific cohort of voters like we did at the last election. But instead of targeting a coalition of urban progressives and rural conservationists, Zach Polanski wants to change the target demographics to being, in my mind, I don't think he's necessarily said that's what he's going to do, but his message will curry lots more favour with urban progressives still, but then also the Labour heartland voters in like Liverpool and places like that, and also ethnic minority communities in urban centres as well. And Adrien Ramsey, right? Adrien Ramsey doesn't like this because that might lose him his seat.
Yep.
If we start winning in Wandsworth and in Lewisham and in other Bristol seats, potentially in places in Liverpool and in Sheffield,
which you're going to
for
have
example,
to do because that's where the people of the country live.
well, exactly, and also the people who are most amenable to our actual policies rather
Yeah.
than just kind of our vibes, right? The bigger we are, the more scrutiny is going to be on the policies rather than just vibes.
No, what we need is to just target the fucking 50 people in rural Herefordshire, wherever the fuck this prick seat is, that care about pylons, as if that's the biggest issue in the world.
Exactly. This is totally incompatible with the kind of message that the Green Party needs to put out if it wants to be successful in the electorate we are most amenable to being successful in. So Adrien Ramsey is personally undermining the future success of the Green Party by putting his personal ambitions first, like any good career politician would do.
Yep.
Very ambitious about
Was he always like this, or does Westminster literally just fuck up everybody that goes there?
I think there's probably a bit of both, right? In that I think people kind of saw him overshadowed as he kind of was in the background at the start when Carla and Adrian were in the limelight in the run-up to the election. It was mostly Carla that was doing a lot of the talking, and Adrien Ramsey was just sticking on manifesto message. But now he's an MP, like his remit is expanded, so he's talking about broader goals and what he wants for his constituents. You know, his constituents elected him to oppose pylons, so it's not surprising that he's now saying these things. Right? I'm not like that is his role as an MP to represent these people, but this is not in the interest of the Green Party, so we should try and sideline him. It's not. But difficult.
I'm just saying, like, there are a limited number of pylons that we need, and I've always thought Ray Fiennes obviously is number one priority for all of the pylons. But any additional pylons we now have left, I wouldn't mind them being put up outside his constituency offices. To be honest.
about the next phase for the party, because Carlo Denny and I came in with a very clear set of goals for the party over the last 4 years. We have achieved all of those goals, and that now gives us a platform for the next phase where I'm really ambitious about a big step up in the Green Party's impact in British politics at a crucial time.
So therefore, given you're saying you think it's important that the Green Party leader is an MP, you think that really Zach Polanski, current deputy who is, as I say, running for leader,
and it's such nonsense because Carla's already ruled herself out, so that's only 3 people left who it could be. So like, just come out and say it. And
like, Sean Berry's already been and gone as leader. She was leader with Jonathan Bartley before Carla Denny was. And did we do very successfully? Not really. I like Sean, but we saw from a question in the House of Commons the other day going, well, will the government please think about Clement Attlee when they try and think about the welfare state for everybody? I'm like, no, tell them they're killing disabled people because that's what they're doing. Stop playing fucking nice. She's a lovely person and a great constituency MP. She's not a leader.
Not just that, but the thing that is annoying me about the Green Party, and this is something they're going to have to get past, is they need to stop being just nice people.
Yep.
I need some bastards. I'm sorry. You need to give me some bastards. Because nicey, nice doesn't get you anywhere, ultimately. Would that it were. What a fucking fantastic world it would be. What a happy world I would buy into with the case. But it isn't. You need some absolute fucking wankers to just look, who is the most effective political operator probably within our lifetime? Peter Mandelson.
Yeah, true. I mean,
a genuinely evil fucking mutant freak. But has controlled British politics from behind the scenes and occasionally in front of the scenes for 30 fucking years.
And if you want to go more kind of recent as well, like Cummings and McSweeney.
Yeah,
Machiavellian bastards.
I can't remember his fucking name now. That's very annoying. Blair's press guy.
Alistair
Campbell. Yeah, just monsters. Absolute monsters. Now, I don't want the Greens to quite go that far. You don't have to be friends with international child sex traffickers, for instance, like Mandelson.
Like first name terms, right?
Yeah, or you don't have to attend their birthday parties or anything like that.
Visit them in prison, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. You don't necessarily have to quite go that far. But
You don't have to. You don't have to lie about. Also, you don't have to. In the case of the other one you mentioned, you don't have to lie about other countries' military capacity to justify illegal wars.
or purposefully murder British scientists and doctors. You don't have to do that. You don't have to purposely strangle Dr. David Kelly to death in that lay-by. Which I'm not suggesting that Alistair Campbell definitely did that. I'm just saying he definitely didn't not do it. For legal reasons, I'm joking.
This is a joke for legal reasons.
This is a joke. So you don't have to go that far, but you do need to be a bit tougher. Like you say, in the comments, you need to come out and say, why are you okay with murdering disabled people? You've just gone through a winter of freezing old people. Is your bloodlust not sated?
Literally.
That's what you have to. You have to like shame them. You have to expose them to the world. There are cameras in there now. There's recordings in there now, which there wasn't even fucking 40 years ago, 50 years ago. You can shame these people now. And Keir Starmer can stand there and fucking go on about student politics, but he just looks worse and worse, which is only to our benefit, surely.
Yeah, treat them like the pariahs that they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at him in the polls. The support for the Labour Party is more than halved in his time since just before the election was called. People fucking hate him.
Yeah. His personal approval rating is like -40.
Yeah.
I think that ought to rule him out, that he's not an MP.
Our rules allow any party member to stand.
But you don't think it would be a very good idea?
I wouldn't change that. Of course, there's going to be a debate, and that's a very legitimate situation to have. We're unusual in the parties, in political parties, in having regular leadership elections, and it's right that party members get to have their say and that there's a debate on which they can make that decision. But what I would argue is that it wouldn't just look really odd to have an MP, have a leader who was not an MP. It would be very difficult to operate in practice. You know, if you had a party leader, for example, who was
also okay. This might be a spicy take. They're going to have to change that fucking leadership merry-go-round as well. You can't have this election every 2 years or whatever. No. You have a leader until that leader is no longer of use, and then you get a new leader, surely.
I fully disagree. I think having the regular leadership elections ensures confidence in the leadership. So the leadership keeps the membership on side, right? Because this is literally the problem that we have in Labour, in that Keir Starmer is the person with the entirely the diktat within his grasp, and the only thing that gets rid of him is if he steps down. If there was a regular leadership election, he couldn't fuck over the members every single week.
You can have a mechanism for the party membership to get rid of somebody, or indeed even the parliamentary Green Party to get rid of somebody. But in terms of becoming a stable, genuine force in parliamentary politics, if that is the goal, I don't think this merry-go-round helps anybody. I think you need to have, especially when you're trying to build a brand, which essentially you're sort of trying to do, because most people probably don't even know who the fuck Adrien Ramsey or Carla Denyer are. You know? Like, you need to have someone out there, someone who becomes associated with them, in the way that, like, Charles Kennedy did for the Liberal Democrats, right? Or even, I suppose, Paddy Ashdown did it a bit as well. But, like, you need to put them on the map. They need to become a genuine national party, which you don't do by having, you know, a new leader all the time.
And also, like, that's a good point in chat. Like, the political parties in the regions have people who lead the party who aren't in Westminster at all.
Yeah.
John Swinney and Rhena Pureworth, neither of these people are MPs.
And also, it's a really silly standard to have from Adrien Ramsey, given that it's literally the first time ever that you've had multiple MPs. So if you're going to do this as a standard, like, none of you have massive majorities, none of you are guaranteed anything in the next election. So, I mean, What about if you only have 2 MPs next time? And it's Carla Denyer and you or something. Like, what the fuck happens then?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the response, or you'd always get to my point would be, oh well, you know, they have their elected positions in Holyrood or in the Senedd, and I'm just like, Zach Polanski is an elected member of the London Assembly. The London Assembly represents more people than the Senedd and Holyrood combined. So in fact, he's probably just as relevant in terms of his own elected position as those people are.
Yeah.
Was saying one thing on, for example, on NATO, and the MPs were saying something different, then who's actually determining the party's position? The reality is that
Oh, you want to suck NATO dick as well? Awesome. Oh, what a lovely guy you are. I definitely want you to be leader of a major political party, Mr. Ramsey. You absolutely worthless ball washer. Shut up.
the
But
MPs determine and set out
Go on,
an
sorry.
things if he did say something like, well, I think that it's not electorally viable to be have an anti-NATO position, that'd be fair enough, right? Just saying being openly pro-NATO, and that was literally the Green Party's position, was being anti-NATO for decades.
Yeah.
argue for the party's position on the issues of the day in Parliament. That's how every other party works. That's why every other party has its leader inside Parliament. And we've worked so hard to get the platform and credibility of having our leaders inside Parliament that I'm confident that our party members will want to continue with that.
Says, sounds like you quite good at fighting talk, really, for someone who might not be running. Sounds like you definitely think that someone from inside the parliamentary party will run, and given that 25% of them have said no, sounds like you might still be interested in the job, Adrien Ramsey.
Well, there are various combinations you could imagine from the other three
not
of
that
us.
many. There's only 4 of you.
Oh, God, you smug cunt. The more I see of Adrien Ramsey...
Sorry, Pepsi Squalls has just said that Adrien Ramsey looks like a boring optometrist.
He does. He really does. He's the briefcase wanker that grew up, you know. Although, of course, we've already had on this show before a fantastic advertisement for an optometrist down the road in Leicester, wasn't it? And you should definitely go to that optometrist and not the other optometrist in the local area. For no political reason whatsoever. Yeah, like Adrien Ramsey is literally doing the political thing now. He's just doing well, you can imagine any number of... Yeah, but I'm asking you, are you running? Don't give me this, you could have lots of combinations. So what? Are you running?
Even if he just said, I am considering it.
Yeah.
I haven't made a decision myself yet, but I am definitely considering it. Because obviously we all know from the loaded rhetoric that this is exactly what the case is, right?
Yeah.
He's at the very least considering it. Just say it. Just say you're at least considering it, and then you'll make your mind up later on. Perfectly reasonable answer to give.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Because there's a lot that goes into it. Both professionally, you have to know that you have a chance of winning, or a chance of at least affecting the thing in a way that you would want, even if you don't think you can win. And of course, on like a personal level, are your family okay with that? Because obviously being the leader of a party in Parliament and all the rest of it, that's a lot of shit to take on. Mm-hmm. So you've got a lot of things to consider and a lot of people to talk to. So it's fine that you don't necessarily know right now, but it's obvious you're thinking about it. So stop dancing around it and talking to me like I'm a 7-year-old, because that's what I'm sick about from the Tories and Labour and even Reform for the most part, is them bullshitting.
It is super funny, isn't it? Speaking of Reform, it is so funny. Since they won all those council seats and people are treating them like a real party that could potentially form a government, suddenly all the straight talking has gone away.
Interesting,
It
isn't it?
disappeared, hasn't it?
They've started doing the dancing on the head of a pin nonsense that they all fucking do. Yeah.
Yes, but there's options of whether someone stands on their own or whether they stand on a joint ticket. So there are a few combinations you can imagine, and you will hear more very soon about where our discussions have got to.
Polanski's whole pitch is to basically say that the Green Party, under your leadership, has actually been, although you're right, in numerical terms it's been growing, you've got 4 MPs and so on, but he still says that compared to where the gap is in British politics on the radical left, that you're rather underpowered and underperforming by comparison to where you would be. What?
I think he's actually correct.
I think
you saw that in the local elections. They did well, but not brilliantly. Now, that's fine. Consolidating and growing slowly and all of that is fine in its own way. But given how despised the Labour Party are, how absolutely despised and distrusted they are, there are a lot of potential votes that you can get there. And they really aren't moving in prodigious numbers.
And there's no time. There's no time. Yeah. There's no time to play slow. There's no time to try and play the long game on this one. We are staring down the barrels of so many different crises, both economic, geopolitical, and democratic, right? That we don't have time to start playing nicey and slowly, right? We actually have to start aggressively trying to be as big as we possibly can. And it's also worth pointing out as well, like, when it comes to local elections, sure, there were a bunch of councils that were in kind of Tory areas, some small increase, right? If we are serious at taking on the Labour Party, we cannot be being behind them in places like the West of England mayoralty, right? And not just in terms of the broader mayoralty, which has some less green areas. In Bristol itself, our most kind of favourable seat in the country, we still had 2,000 fewer votes than Labour. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it'd be fine. We should elect Adrien Ramsey, and he can do sensible nice boy politics with everybody in the Palantir-run death camps that Prime Minister Farage is going to institute.
Luckily, those Palantir-run death camps will be nowhere near any pylons.
Thankfully. Oh, can you imagine? That'd be terrible.
What's your response to that?
First of all, I would say that the Green Party went through several general elections after 2010, promising to deliver more MPs and not doing so. The first election where we've done so was where Carla Denny and I came in with a clear strategy to actually achieve that growth in our number of MPs and votes. So you shouldn't just look at what politicians offer, but on what they actually deliver and have the track record of delivering. But my ambition for the party is substantial. We are at a time when...
Also, am I being hyper cruel here? Or is his smile giving me like fake Tony Blair smile vibes?
I mean,
it's a little bit like he throws it in there to make himself seem nicer. Do you know what
I mean? I'm not going to make any judgment. I don't know.
It seems like he's been sort of coached a little. What's this? Hello, thank you, Katie. Kev, Green councillors for Brom next year. Chances? Not impossible. Not impossible. There's already one Green councillor in Birmingham, in the seat I grew up in, actually.
I mean, you'll probably see lots of Greens and independent. Maybe we have some.
There'll be a lot of independents, yeah, because
a lot of reform as well.
Heavy Muslim areas, which obviously shouldn't just be a Muslim-only thing, but they would usually be Labour, and they don't want to vote for the bombing Palestine party. So, there'll be an independent that'll stand for either the Workers' Party or just like a local person. And a lot of those will get elected. And we could see a genuine shake-up, because the council here is, as one can understand, given that rats the size of cats is the current slogan for the city, not very popular.
No.
Really not very popular at all right now.
Even less popular than the National Labour Party.
Yes, somehow they've managed to outflank Keir Starmer to the bottom of the graph. I don't quite know how they've managed it, but they have.
We've got a 5-party system in English politics, 6 parties in Welsh politics. John Curtis and others are highlighting that the future of British politics is wide open. People are looking around for alternatives because they're so sick and tired of what the tired old parties offer, what they've failed to deliver for people who've been left behind, our public services at breaking point, deepening inequality, the climate crisis going unchecked. And so there is a huge opportunity for the Green Party building on that platform of having 4 Green MPs in Parliament to show we're the ones standing up and saying, if we want to protect the most ill and disabled people in society from Labour's cuts to benefits, if we want to have proper funding for our schools and hospitals who are being squeezed under this Labour government, if we want to have a livable future for our children and grandchildren, Greens are offering that. We will only be able to we can only do that if we have leaders who've got the track record of not just appealing to their base.
Jesus Christ. He's even doing the Starmer repeat the same fucking sentences over and over again.
Oh my god, it is so it's uncanny.
He's being coached. I don't give a fuck. And that's not necessarily the end of the world, because being PR savvy is fine. That makes sense. You're being
necessary. It's necessary to be PR savvy.
You're going to be interviewed by fucking Daily Mail and stuff. You need to be able to cover your bases. But he's just doing the same thing. If this was Keir Starmer talking, I don't know that he'd be saying anything different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The style would not be any different.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen with Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives.
What, sorry?
You get some briefcase emotes in chat, please.
Literally.
If you have a leader that just appeals to the base vote, that doesn't win you any elections or any seats, and we need leaders who've got that track record.
Well, precisely on the point about saving the future of the planet, Polanski told me last week that your party is losing the argument on net zero. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think if you look at what's happening around the world, there are deep worries and concerns about the rise in support for parties that are not only have really worrying policies on climate, but have really worrying policies on social divisions as well. So the wider green and progressive movement, of which the Green Party, of course, is a key part, have got a lot to do to argue why policies for a green and sustainable future will be better for the economy. It will mean huge opportunities for jobs in renewable energy and public transport, in producing more.
Would you say that tackling the climate crisis is going to fix the foundations.
True. Very, very,
Is
very
that-
true.
yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Wouldn't be any $22 billion pound black holes if we just fixed the climate crisis.
Also, like he says, we can't just win by appealing to the base. I'm like, well, that's the world we're living in now. The world we're living in is when the kind of the political party that's top of the polls can't even break 30%. This is the world we live in. People actually, the base is what you need. What we actually want to do is take the base away from Labour, right? We are stepping into the shoes that Labour filled in 2019 and 2017. In 2017 when Labour got 40% of the vote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are a lot of votes out there to be had, and that's the sort of disappointing element of the recent results is that they made increases. So, like I said, it's not, you can't argue that they had a bad night because they increased their numbers across the board, really, but they didn't have a great night, and you can't help but feel with better leaders, or at least just a generally better game, they would have done better. You know?
More of our food locally. Those are huge opportunities, and we won the seats we won last year by making that case. But I'm not at all complacent. We've got to step up that effort and show how the green policy is done in the right way, and it's not being done in the right way by this government, can bring people into a fairer, greener future that they'll support.
He's also said that the UK should leave NATO because of Donald Trump. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't, and that's not Green Party policy. The Green Party updated our policy position recently to say that we want to reform NATO. There's lots of things that need to be different about the way...
Wet, fucking neoliberal bullshit. Wet bollocks. I'm
Like,
sorry.
I'm going to push back here. It is true. Like, the political party's position is to reform NATO, and it did change, and this was a democratic decision, right? It's absolutely fine for him to recognise that, And I think that, as I said, I don't think that having an anti-NATO position is electorally viable, and I think that Zach shouldn't be pushing it, because I think that it won't win anybody's support, especially not in a post-Russia-Ukrainian war world, right? But to him to say that is fine, but like to try and say that think we should be pro NATO for loads of different reasons, that's a bad thing, I would say. You can't be pro NATO. Like you can be NATO skeptic while saying we should remain in reform. But
all I'll say is, having watched the European leaders try and throw Ukraine under the bus today, as we all said they would do at the very start of this, I can't help but feel my feelings towards NATO have been something have been backed up slightly. Also, imagine doing coke with Keir Starmer. Jesus Christ. I know it was a tissue, shut up. Jesus. Anyway, to the person in chat who said, is Birmingham looking to start up a new Pied Piper thing? Literally, that has already happened. I'll might as well show you as it's there as well. Yeah, there was a guy walking through the town centre the other day, playing a fucking flute. And he's the Birmingham Pied Piper. Literally already fucking happened. The unnamed man. Did no one go up and ask him? Jesus. Anyway. So that's I don't think when you turn into Hamlin that you're going to be re-elected, lads. Call me crazy.
I mean, to Zach's credit, people keep talking about his anti-NATO position without discussing the reality of what he's proposed, which is to have European alliances instead, which is reasonable. Like the position that Trump is an unreliable ally and he's using NATO as a cudgel to beat other European countries within NATO into spending more on defence and cutting their welfare budgets to do so, right? That's all a reasonable argument, and to replace it with a European defence pact is also a good idea. But that's not going to be the headlines. The headlines are going to be fucking Polanski and Green's wet wipes want to sell us out to Putin. That's the world, unfortunately, as it is.
Yeah, they're going to say that anyway.
True.
Like, I'm sick of fucking compromising all the time. Like, at some point you have to actually stand on some principle, don't you?
Well, that's true. That's true. I just think that this is the time for being anti-NATO was probably like 10 years ago.
Probably, and I get the point you're making, but it's just very fucking annoying. Like, it's not just Trump using it as a cudgel. It's always been a cudgel. It's just been again, as with Trump, is as every other American president, an absolute wanker. It's just that the other ones were able to hide it.
Yeah, true.
Like, it's never not been about America running the show.
Yeah.
It's always been America's club against Russia, and that's it.
NATO operates, such as not having a policy of being willing to use first strike nuclear weapons. But at a time when we see Donald Trump throwing his weight around, at a time when we see war in Europe, the idea that you can walk away from multinational cooperation on the international stage and on peacekeeping is it's just not what Green Party members voted for when it last came to party conference, and it's not what I'll be arguing for in the coming months.
And just finally, you came in a couple of weeks ago for some criticism after your comments on the UK Supreme Court's ruling on the legal definition of women and sex and as to what a trans woman is. On the
I got a genuine sinking feeling in my stomach. Oh no. Okay, let's see what he has to say today.
question of a trans woman being a woman, what is your position on that?
So my view, Lewis, is that I have always treated people as they...
There you go. I mean, do I even need to finish the fucking the sentence again? Given another opportunity to just say trans women are women, and then explain your nuanced position about treating people with respect or applying the law or whatever fucking bullshit. Fuck off, mate.
Yeah.
Present to me. I've always treated people with respect. If someone tells me that they're a woman, I treat them as a woman, and I know that the British public does that as well.
Yeah, exactly. The question wasn't, do you treat them as a woman? I mean, I never argued that you had poor personal courtesy.
Well, even Jermaine Greer said she would treat, people using the pronouns and the names that they would request,
Yeah.
and she's like archturf.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Jermaine Greer looks positively normal and well adjusted in comparison to the Kelly J. Keens and the J.K. Rowlings and the Maya Forstatus of this world.
True.
Not a straightforward question is because there are some circumstances where you may need to provide services based on biological sex, and that's what the Supreme
This is
Court
already
ruling
in the Equality Act, Adrian. This is already in the Equality Act. You can already maintain an exemption if we can provide reasonable justification for the exemption. This already exists. Why are you trying to spin this as part of the UKSC's judgment when that was specifically towards the Equality Act in its interpretation? And you can replace it with a new statute that is clearer anyway, should you want to.
Also, he's just briefcase wankering again.
He is briefcase wankering.
Jibber jabber. Meaningless politician wank.
Set out. The trouble is that the guidance from the HRC since then has not made clear how services will also be provided in a way that meets trans people's needs and
No, it has. It said that actually sometimes trans men can't use any toilets.
It's true. That did this part
so
of the...
So they'll just have to shit in the street like a monkey. Fuck it. That's what kind of... That's not a grey area. That's very much a brown area.
So to be fair, that's just what Birmingham's like nowadays.
To be fair, you wouldn't make any difference. It might mask the smell of rotting food.
Recognises that there are huge complexities around this subject, and people who try to pretend that this is an easy topic are not doing it justice. We need to listen to the experiences of trans people. We need to listen to the experiences of everyone affected by this debate and ensure that women, trans people, everybody have access to the services they need that meet their needs and preserve their dignity. And of course, I treat everybody with respect and based on the identity that they tell me they have.
Adrien Ramsey there, currently at least, for now.
Fucking worthless twat.
Absolutely useless answer.
Yeah, fuck yourself, mate. I don't even know what else to say to that. I don't know how you wrap that up other than briefcase.
Briefcase, yeah, absolute, sentient briefcase moment.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. So, I mean, compared to that, whatever Laura Koonsberg's got cooking might not be so terrible. Who knows?
Palantir. They have a representative for fucking Palantir on the show today.
Oh, God, I did the joke earlier. Oh, my God, okay. Oh, look at these. Wow, Jesus. Oh, God.
Oh, whoa. I thought we didn't have a border chat. It says UK border at the top of the screen there. I thought there was no border. We'd opened the border. The borders had gone forever. Turns out that was wrong. Actually, there is a border, and we do enforce it. And all these people talk about open borders.
Well, no, exactly. We have a border. It's just open. Like, when is a door not a door? When it's a jar! Hang on. Oop.
A failed experiment? The Home Secretary wants to shake up immigration, but what's her plan? Well, she's here to tell us with her opposite number, Chris Philp from the
Chris
Conservatives.
Philp.
A review of grooming gangs
Gotta
is
love
also
it.
due to be published in the next few weeks. One victim goes public
I've
for
gotta
the
find the
first
clip,
time,
hang on.
telling us she's no faith in politicians to put it right.
I want justice like we was promised. I don't want him to, no one's taking accountability for it.
And get ready, because this will wake you up.
Hello, you're out there.
Two
Okay, but this, I mean, I know he's not this, but this does look like one of those weird, like, Nazi fucking Abbey pick people.
True. Absolutely, he really does have a white nationalist physiognomy.
Yeah, like there's the skull shape and everything. It's very, what was his name? The Swedish guy, but he was muscly. I can't remember.
The golden one.
The golden one. There we go. XXO. Boom.
Two number ones, 1 billion streams and millions of fans. We meet Youngblood, an icon for Gen Z.
It's got slightly weirdly
You start
placed
something as a
nipple.
musician, and then you kind
Sometimes
of
Youngblood is really lefty. He's really
connect
lefty.
with
He's
Yeah,
people
no,
on
I
a
know,
daily
yeah,
basis. I
that's-
always make an effort to see people outside the gigs and see people walk around a festival, and this whole community
Also, I know which bit we don't need to watch.
was built on human connection about how people live.
And our team at the desk for the next hour this week. Nobel Prize winner, no less, Joseph Stiglitz, Dr. Shan Williams, psychologist and broadcaster, and Louis Mosley, the UK boss of the tech.
Hang on. The grandson of fucking Oswald Mosley,
Yes.
who, delightfully, is literally wearing a black shirt.
You'd have thought he would avoid it.
You think, yeah. And the Hitler sweep is not helping, mate, really.
Tech giant Palantir.
And, of course, an evil motherfucker who's currently arming the genocide in Israel. So I'm glad to see his family don't still continue to support genocidal monsters. Look, imagine you're the guy who runs Formula One and gets busted for having coke and hooker parties, and you're the least weird of the 3 generations of your family. You're the least evil of your family.
It's true. It's so true.
That is
Literally
that
true.
is one hell of an arc.
Morning. Let's start, as we always do, by what's making the news today. We're talking about immigration, so are many of the front pages. The Sunday Times claims one
What a
businessman is...
surprise! Incredible scenes, chat. The press are talking about immigration.
Oh, I thought we weren't allowed to talk about it. We never talk about it.
No,
Nigel
exactly.
Farage says we never ever talk about this. Also,
It's forbidden.
Asylum Hotel King becomes a billionaire. Yeah, welcome to capitalism, you prick. What? He ran a business and made money. Why do you hate that? You're literally owned by Rupert Murdoch. Fuck off.
Yeah, like this was done through like outsourcing companies for the government.
Yeah.
Like, this has been the way this has worked for years.
You know, you stop that. A, don't put them up in hotels because that's mental. And B, if you are going to put them up in temporary accommodation, have it publicly owned. Would you prefer that, Mr. Murdoch? Oh no, you just want to gun them down when they're in the boats, obviously.
become a billionaire running asylum hotels. The Mail on Sunday and the Sunday Express both splash on Yvette Cooper's plans. We'll be asking her about
they're
in a
talking
few-
about immigration as well. Crazy.
You're not allowed to talk about immigration, Kev.
No, you're not. You know they put you in jail if you talk about immigration.
Yeah, these days.
few minutes. And here at the BBC, the website's leading on Vladimir Putin's late-night call for direct talks between Russia and Ukraine. But the Sunday Mirror takes a different tack. It leads on Meghan Markle's dad moving.
That does have the kind of vibe to it, like where Donald Trump gets caught in new scandal, and on every news station, it's Donald Trump is a piece of shit, and then on Fox, it's like how to make the perfect pancake. You know, it's that. The Mirror's giving me those vibes right now. I'm just saying.
To the Philippines. Well, welcome to all of you this morning. Now, Joseph, we're going to be talking about immigration, and it's very hotly contested in almost every way. But help us out on this central question. Is immigration good for the economy or not?
Overall, I think it's good. It affects demand and supply. most economies, modern economies, have real needs for immigrants in particular areas. I can tell you for the United States, if we didn't have immigrants, we would come to a screeching halt.
And in terms of the UK, Louis, as an employer here, we know the government, and we're going to hear in more detail, they're bringing in more and more controls on legal migration. As an employer, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Does it make your life harder?
We employ very much the high skill, high wage end of the spectrum.
The high skill? Really? I mean,
Also,
really,
how
they did that.
posh is this guy? Jesus.
Well, he's the son of Oswald Mosley and Sir Oswald Mosley and Sir. What was his fucking name?
So no, he's the son of Max Mosley,
Max
right?
Mosley,
and the grandson of Oswald Mosley.
That's the one. I forget I forget my fascists in order. Apologies.
Well,
For legal
Max
reasons,
Mosley-
Max
I mean-
Mosley is not technically known as a fascist, but let's be
No,
honest.
didn't he? He specifically renounced it, didn't he? sometime,
Well,
didn't he?
yeah, but let's be honest. Come on.
Well,
Come
he was mostly busy doing racing cars and getting fucked by people dressed as Nazis.
Allegedly.
And I think for that, I don't expect to see any of these changes really affect those kinds of jobs. We want to bring those very, very skilled people into the country, just as Joseph said. But my concern would be broader around public trust. I think for the last 15 years, we've elected 5 governments now that have all promised to bring down net migration, and it consistently hasn't happened.
And Sian, during that time, the public conversation around immigration has really changed, hasn't it? I mean, I remember 2009, I think Gordon Brown said British jobs for British workers, and that seemed shocking to some people in Labour circles, but that's the kind of thing now. It's very common for our politicians to say that. What do you think of the change?
Well, there has been a huge change. I remember in 1999 being sent by BBC News up to Glasgow to do the Kosovan refugees, if you remember. And I mean, since then, the numbers have gone up, huge. So I think the language has shifted from asylum seekers, refugees. There was talk of illegal immigrants for a while, and I think there was some confusion about what that meant and whether it might be dehumanising.
Okay, it's out of sync. I don't know why it does this.
Well, it's in sync on my end, but what's frustrating is that she said, there was some... What's frustrating is she says, oh, well, this was... Sorry, let me start that again. What's frustrating is that she says, oh, well, there was some confusion over whether they're illegal immigrants, whether that's the right name, whether that's dehumanising. It's just a lot. It's just It's just not true. It's just 100% not true. It is not true in the slightest that they are illegal. To claim asylum through arriving via regular means perfectly legal under the Refugee Convention. I mean, I know that she knows this. Just come out and say it. It's true that people have been lying about these people's statuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also,
humanising. So I think there are...
And also, as well as that, it's interesting, as he mentions the Kosovan refugees who were painted in a very kind of sympathetic light. We did the same with the Ukrainian refugees. Not the same with the Afghan refugees, though.
No.
It's almost like we only really care about people, A, if they're white, although technically I guess Kosovar people aren't necessarily white, and depending on your perspective, it's messy and complicated. But most of all, we only care about refugees if they're fleeing from our geopolitical enemies and not our geopolitical friends, or indeed from us, the messes that we caused.
Yeah.
Lots of challenges that all governments have faced. The numbers, the finances, and making things human.
Okay, well, lots to talk about then with the Home Secretary and with you three a bit later in the show. Let's get on with our main event.
Why is it out of sync for me? That's really fucking annoying. If it... Keep trying to fuck off.
Our main event. This is how things have changed. Back in 2012, you can see the number of people moving legally to the UK was bumping around the 200,000 mark. It was there for a while, dropped off during COVID, but then soared to that all-time high you can see there in 2023. Some Tory reforms have caused the numbers to slide a little bit. You can see that on the graph. And they are expected to fall a bit more. But the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister will vow to bring the numbers down further. But how? Let's find out with the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. Welcome to...
And again, they're doing this to try and get like 3 Tommy Robinson supporters to vote for them, and they're not going to.
I mean, it does seem very high when it was at the 200,000 before, then it's up at the 900 to 700,000 mark or whatever it was. But that's obviously a combination of the pandemic and Ukraine and a bunch of other stuff and COVID backlogs, right? Whatever. So
no, but I'm not arguing that they shouldn't tackle the problem. The fact that they're going so hard on this, and that Keir Starmer is the most patriotic patriot who ever patrioted it, it's bollocks. We all know it's a lie.
Of all people, previous mentioned friend of the show, Alistair Campbell, was pointing out, because it came up on my TikTok feed the other day, I think it was yesterday actually, that actually you don't win by trying to ape Farage's rhetoric, right? What you do is you solve the problem and you don't fucking shout about it. You fix the problem without making it the talk of the town, because all that does is lend credence to your opponent's narrative, right? Yep. You fix the problem by actually doing material change on it, and then your opponent has to shut up because they can't run it anymore.
And then you illegally invade Middle Eastern countries. I presume is his follow-on to that. Right? Yeah. Do some torture in Iraqi jails, maybe? I don't know.
Good morning. So we know quite a lot about some of your proposals. Skilled workers will have to have degree-level education if they want to come here. Businesses will have to prove to you if they need low-skilled workers to be able to...
What does her mouth look like, Churchill the dog? Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Bring them...
Oh, for fuck's sake.
...them in. But aren't you making it harder for people to do business in the UK?
Well, what we're doing is it's a fundamental shift in the approach to say that the immigration system should be properly linked to skills and training here in the UK. What you saw on that chart was really this failed free market experiment with which the Conservatives replaced free movement, where employers were effectively encouraged to recruit from wherever they wanted to, including they actually had a 20% discount on wages if they recruited from overseas rather than training here in the UK. Well, that is a broken approach, and that's why we saw overseas recruitment saw training being cut. We're switching that round and now saying we'll bring in new visa controls, particularly on the lower skilled migration, to bring that down, and also new requirements for workforce strategies, for training commitments, and for that better working to get people who are not working back into the labour market here in the UK.
Interesting.
Workplace strategies, training requirements, those things.
I do like that she said there was a free market approach rather than open borders experiment. That seems to be a much better phrasing if you're going to pretend to be doing this from a kind of left-wing perspective. Deriding it for being free market rather than being open borders is there's better framing.
It is.
What's tilting though? What's frustrating is just so that we can come higher in the UK. While we have record low unemployment, who are you hiring?
Yeah.
Might be felt by some businesses to be extra burdens, extra admin, and also for a simple point of fact, the National Builders Federation, for example, has said to the BBC, look, it takes 2 years to train an apprentice. What are they meant to do in the meantime? They say this will make it more difficult to hit your target of building houses in this country?
Well, construction is quite a good example, because for construction we will have a temporary shortage list. It replaces some of what's been effectively permanent shortage lists that never got turned around. New, much narrower temporary shortage list. And construction, we're drawing up the workforce strategy at the same time. So Bridget Phillipson has set out plans to train 60,000...
Hasn't she been fired yet? Oh, no, it's next month, isn't it? Sorry, my bad.
And more construction workers. So that way, what you're saying is we invest in the UK workforce in the short term. While that workforce is being trained, they will be able to continue to recruit from abroad. But there are a lot of other occupations, about 180 different occupations, that we're saying, actually, you shouldn't be able to recruit from abroad. You should be recruiting here in the UK. You should be training and investing workers in the UK instead.
But do you accept that all of this...
The problem, of course, though, is that loads of these employers literally can't find people in the UK to do those jobs, right? Factories were closing down in Yorkshire because they literally had nobody who was applying to do the jobs themselves, There was a real problem with that. Now, I know that the labour market's shifted. Unemployment is slightly higher than it was back in 2022. That's when this happened. It was under Boris Johnson at the time, right? We had this real kind of hot labour market that's kind of cooled since a bunch of wages have gone up recently. But yeah, there's the actual labour pool to draw on is so much smaller than this discussion warrants, right? And I think that the nature of the high levels of migration is a response to that hot labour market and a response to the fact that it was really difficult to hire people. But then, of course, you say, well, surely that just means you should try and incentivize wage bargaining, but we don't really have much of that in this country.
Yep.
Whether it's for good or for ill, and some people might like the idea of more homegrown workers having to take jobs in the UK, but do you accept that this is extra burden for business? You know, in a free market, you want businesses to grow, they want to hire the people they need right now, and you're making that more complicated.
So, but if that approach was right, we would have seen, when we saw that soaring level of net migration, that soaring level of overseas recruitment, well, surely we would have seen soaring growth alongside it, and we didn't. Actually, what we...
Well, apart from the fact that they weren't allowed to work because they were kept in limbo and not being processed.
Oh, but this is about regular migration, right? These are people on visas, but again, a lot of these people were students, right?
Yeah.
Then in that 900 million number, I think the combined student and refugee number, because there's loads of people coming from Ukraine, specifically in 2022, because 22-23, there's that 900k year. Like, that's the plurality, that's the majority, sorry, of those two together, of students and of Ukrainian refugees.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would like to see more Ukrainian refugees get jobs in the UK, and a lot of them are really kind of itching to go home, which might, fingers crossed, be on the horizon if we see this peace deal potentially go through. But students aren't getting jobs, of course, but they may get jobs later down the line, right? All these student visas are people who will be getting jobs in 2 years' time or 1 year's time, right?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, and the ultimate problem is that employers don't want to pay a wage upon which a British person can live, so they don't take the jobs. That's why we've seen consistently now over the last couple of years fucking fruit and veg rotting in the fields because people don't want to pick it for nothing. You can employ a Romanian at tuppence, but a British person won't work for that wage.
I mean, they increased the wages. That was what's so crazy about the fruit and veg pickers in, I believe it was in East Anglia this was in, right? If I remember correctly.
I think there was some in Kent as well.
Yeah, like they actually increased the wages to more than they thought that they could afford and still couldn't recruit.
Well, exactly, because it's back-breaking labour in the baking sun.
Yeah.
Difficult, horrible hours. Yeah, it's not nice work, which means you have to pay people not nice work money. And if you can't run a profit on that, then there is something fundamentally broken about this system and it needs to vastly change. But the thing is, so many industries have now got addicted to borderline free labour.
And again, lots of this was because of supply-side labour market reform coming from the Conservative government. A lot of this was due to declining trade union membership. A lot of the ability for employers to be able to recruit from abroad is because they don't have to care about collective bargaining, because we don't fucking have any of it, especially not in the private sector in this country.
And let's be honest, we know that they've been hiring illegally.
Yeah.
We know from the Chinese cockle pickers and the regular fucking freezer vans full of dead migrants that appear. We know that that's what they're doing. They're bringing people in illegally. Not necessarily the businesses ordering them, but if people come in illegally, and again, they're not asylum seekers, they are economic migrants, then they don't get any employment benefits. They get paid an absolute pittance. The remunerations they do get are often taken from them in exorbitant fees for like rent, in awful accommodation. And loads of industries have been, like I say, have been addicted to this now for decades. And it needs to fucking stop. Not just because it would improve the lot of British people, but, I mean, the fucking migrants themselves are being abused and treated as slave labour.
Whereas if we just give them a way to get here normally, you know, they could come
Safe
here...
and legal routes, yeah.
Literally, they could come here normally, come here and pay taxes, do the work, and get some remuneration for it.
Unless they're Indians or any of these other countries that we've just exempted people from paying tax. Again, it's like you want to start a race riot.
But globalisation is over, Kev.
No, it's over. It's over. It's just that we now have to eat chlorinated chicken whilst Indians don't pay tax. Like, they genuinely want people to start lighting hotels on fire. I'm just sure of it.
Saw was the economy flatline because by failing to invest in UK workers, that also undermines productivity, it undermines the ability to get people back into the work who are currently not working. So alongside those record highs of overseas recruitment, we also had this big increase in people just not working here in the UK. Those things are linked.
There are specific, very serious concerns. So let's think about, the NHS and the care sector. And the care sector has relied on foreign workers because they just haven't been able to get UK.
Yeah, because again, people don't want to clean shitty arses in some old age pensioners' home for just above minimum wage. People don't want to do it. It's not very nice labour. So you have to fucking pay people. And they don't want to. And so any government that was actually serious about turning that foreign worker tap off is going to have to vastly increase the wages they're offering.
Yep.
Do the jobs. The Tories changed the rules, so there's already been a drop-off in the number of visas being given to care workers coming in from abroad. Do you want to cut that still further? Can you see a day even when you say no care workers should come in from abroad?
Yes, we do. And we're going to change those rules this year to prevent the care worker visa being used to recruit from abroad. So we will close, yes. So, but we will allow...
So the care system's going to collapse then?
It's basically the case, isn't it?
Yeah, like, we already don't have enough workers, even when you're letting foreign ones in. If you cut that pipeline off completely, the care system collapses. Which is why, of course, this is a lie. They'll find some other workaround to allow this to continue. Because it's either that or, like, old people will start dying. Lots. Because they're not going to be cared for. Because there's going to be no one to fucking do it. All these places are going to have to shut. Which, I mean, they don't care about, but will look very, very bad. And lose them votes.
Allow them to continue to extend visas and also to recruit from. There's more than 10,000 people who came on a care worker visa where the sponsorship visa was cancelled. Effectively, they came to jobs that weren't actually here or that were not of the proper standard. They are here, and care companies should be recruiting from that pool of people rather than recruiting from abroad. We are closing recruitment from abroad. That is a significant change, and we're doing it alongside saying we need to bring in a...
You can't bring new foreign people in, but you can still employ the foreign people who are already here, but aren't working in the sector.
Bit weird.
Yeah, a bit weird. I mean, so what you're doing there is giving with one hand and taking with the other, because you're just creating a hole in a different part of the economy that also can't be filled because you're not paying anyone anything.
Although at least they got rid of the 20% exemption for people coming from abroad, right? That 20% pay cut they got, they deliberately undercut workers from the UK. Really
that was
strange
again,
policy from the Tories.
Yeah, really, like you're trying to start a fucking race riot.
Yeah.
Mad. Like, we're deliberately allowing workers to come in and allowing employers to undermine you. Like, you're creating a powder keg.
A new fair pay agreement
right,
for
all my
care
monitors
workers
have just gone for
because we saw that huge increase.
You okay?
Sorry, all my monitors have disappeared for some reason. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Come on.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to say you can help us both out if you are able to and indeed willing to, in the form of subscriptions and bits and memberships and super chats. These are things you can do. God bless.
What's going on? I can't find my bloody...
I wish I could help, but as we saw earlier, I don't know what I'm doing
either. so please bear with us 1 second, chat.
This is very much the blind leading the ultra blind. Or the ultra blind
right.
leading.
You'll be able to hear Kevin and hear Laura Kay, chat. Don't worry, but for the moment it'll just be an audio show.
So the No Justice podcast.
Ooh, in care work recruitment from abroad, but without actually ever tackling the problems in the system in the care sector.
But there are already shortages in that sector.
Yeah,
I can almost imagine somebody running a care home emailing us right now saying, I can't get staff. Where are they meant to get their staff from?
Well, we want them to recruit. We're
going to force British people who aren't trained to work for nothing. Because we're the party of Labour, and that's what that means.
There's the concept of work itself.
Yeah, just the concept of physical labour is the thing.
Pool of people who came as care workers in good faith. They were recruited, but because there were no proper checks in place, because there were no proper standards, what instead
How are there going to be proper checks in place, considering that the Czech Republic is a part of the European Union?
Hey!
Oh, she starts doing jokes about Poles. Oh, I'm all over the place.
people were being exploited, really badly exploited. Those workers are still here. Care companies should be recruiting from those workers. They can also extend existing visas. They could recruit as well from people who are on other visas who are already here. But we do think it's time to end that care worker recruitment from abroad.
Some universities are very worried about this, though, too. Are you going to remove the right of graduates from overseas who qualify here to stay in the UK when they've finished their studies?
Yeah, what we don't need is highly trained, qualified experts in their field. No. We need to kick them the fuck out, obviously. I hate this country so much. It's so shit.
We'll set out more details on this tomorrow. We are making some changes, but we will continue to value international students, to welcome international students, and we will continue to have arrangements where they can work after they graduate.
But that sounds like you are going to remove the automatic right that they have to stay for 2 years after they qualify.
We will let them continue to come and to stay and to work afterwards. We are making some changes, particularly around the standards and the compliance for universities, because, again, we've had problems where some universities haven't had proper standards in.
They did say they were going to go harder on the student visa stuff, and then what they would have done, just like loads of other sectors of the economy, they would have looked at the economic reality and go, well, actually, loads of universities are going to go bust if we restrict the visas, so we can't do that. So I guess we'll have to deal with the political fallout of what happens if migration figures don't come down quick enough. That's because it's the reality, right? These foreign students are essentially keeping our universities afloat.
True, but the problem is. That's essentially what they've done in every sector of the economy, is realised, we've become too reliant on migrants, therefore we can't stop anything. Which then means that the people are going, like, we told you to stop the fucking migrants. Even though economically they're cutting off their nose to spite their face, they've consistently voted for that thing. And if you don't ever give them that thing, eventually they're going to turn to fucking Farage.
Well, that's been the case, right? Is that so much of this has just been a huge pack of lies from the political class over the reality of migration, right?
Yeah.
Is that they kept what was so tilting is that the genuine belief that I have in multiculturalism was being used to sell people on the idea that it doesn't matter if migrants undercut wages, it was worth it for social reasons, when the reality, of course, was that they actually didn't undercut wages. As Joseph Stiglitz pointed out at the top of the show, they influence both supply and demand. When people think about migration, they only think about it in terms of labour demand. They only ever think about it in terms of, well, the labour supply, right? Well, the supply has gone up in terms of the number of people looking for work, therefore the value of the labour goes down. Well, no, every migrant who comes is also a consumer as well as a worker, right? So when they consume, they are also increasing demand in the same level, right? So it's not just supply, demand also changes too. So it doesn't actually really drive down wages the way people assumed it would. But people actually, ironically, are thinking about Marx's reserve army of labour theory, but that only works in a closed system economy, which a constantly increasing one due to an increased level of population stimulate demand undermines that. It's very funny to me that a bunch of right-wingers trying to use that as justification for being anti-migration were quoting a Marxian theory that doesn't really work in reality.
Yeah. Also, of course, the thing that hasn't even been touched upon in this particular discussion, albeit it constantly is within the general discussion of immigration, is the fact that over the course of these successive governments now that have just, not exponentially, but increasingly brought in larger numbers of migrants, is that not one of them has ever thought, well, what about if we produce enough shit for people? Like, we need infrastructure. More people means we need more houses and more schools and more everything.
That's the thing, right? That's the thing. It's at no point did we bother thinking, well, if we're going to increase the population size, we're going to have to invest in the public realm to that same degree, which they just haven't.
Yeah.
So Francisco in chat says, I think it's maybe think about the current political problems facing the UK, given about how the state has given up on biopolitics, and to given up on treating its population as a natural resource, and to get the most of its population to maximise its well-being. I mean, I just think that when they say get the most out of its population, they do so in crude economic terms rather than holistic terms, right? And then you say, of course, you maximise their well-being, but well-being is being treated like an externality by our political class and by our economy.
One of the great examples, actually, of the point that the person was making there, was getting rid of the nursing bursary. Again, the care sector has become addicted to stealing South African nurses. rather than training people here who want to become nurses. Like, if you apply for the nursing bursary, it means you've chosen to want to become a nurse, and the Tories just went, nah, fuck that. Let's impoverish them before they even get to their fucking borderline starvation wages that will pay them to do the most important thing in the country.
And that's the reality, right? Is that now the case is as strong as it's ever been for bringing in nurses and care workers from abroad. And it's a direct result of the fact that we didn't bother training them before and we took away the financial incentives for them to train.
Well,
and
it's okay, because we don't need to invest in this natural resource of humans here. We can just steal them from abroad. It's like colonialism, but with people.
And that's the thing, right? Is that it's all well and good saying, "Oh, we should be training people up now." No, that's fucking 2-3 years it's going to take to do that. We need care workers and nurses immediately.
And that's part of the problem, of course, of governance, in a sense, within a vaguely democratic system, is that there's no incentive for Yvette Cooper to put in place something that will come online in 10 years, because she ain't going to be fucking Home Secretary in 10 years.
Whoa. They said they'd have a decade of national renewal, Kev.
Well, there's certainly going to be a public works boom for the Gulag construction, so, I can't wait for that. No, she's not going to be around, and so they just don't do anything that isn't going to be making the headlines next week, which is, of course, not how you make anything good, because nothing good happens in a week or a month or a year. It happens over the course of decades. In terms of systems, obviously you can build a building in a year, but you can't make an NHS in a second,
Unless you're China.
Well, unless you're China, in which case you can just build a fucking hyper speed thing through mountains and rivers and swamps. And yes, you do have to slaughter some peasants to get them out of the way. But, come on now.
See, Kev, what you're missing is what we really need are enslaved people in Xinjiang to be able to build the high-speed rail of tomorrow in the UK.
Have they got suicide nets on the high-speed rail?
I don't know. I feel like the UK is getting close to that. Let's ask Kim Leadbeater what she thinks.
Yeah, Kim Leadbeater's like, I voted for HS2 so that people could kill themselves very efficiently.
We put a plough on the front. This is terrible. I'm so sorry, chat. This is like a really, really dark subject that requires a lot of care and attention. I'm not treating it this way.
We can rename it the Switzerland Express. Let's go.
The Dignitas.
Yeah, the Dignitas from London to Manchester.
Place. They've recruited people to come as international students who then haven't completed their courses, have either overstayed or caused other problems with compliance in the system. So we're going to increase those standards.
I think the two really interesting things that it would be great if you could
sure
answer these questions.
There's a joke in there about it setting off from Canada water as well, because Canada love to slaughter disabled. Jesus Christ.
Dear.
What's that? You're too poor. Have you thought about suicide?
Sorry, Dot Cobbler. The return cost the same as a single.
Fucking hell. Oh no. Bad.
Directly, because you say this is a big change in the approach. Do you think that your government has to cut these numbers, whatever the costs might be, whatever the difficulties might be for the care sectors, whatever the costs might be for the university sector, which is under a lot of financial pressure? So is this cut the numbers, whatever the cost?
We do need to bring net migration down.
Whatever the cost.
That huge increase that we had is not sustainable.
Well, kind of, yeah. Like, again, I don't want to make the argument of, yay, fuck migration, because that's not what I personally believe, right? I'm fine, generally speaking, with migration. Again, you do have to build the infrastructure, and successive governments have not done that. But the point is, I don't think migration is necessarily a bad thing. But the people of the country really pretty fucking consistently for decades now have said, let's have slightly less migration, shall we? And they've been constantly promised that, even by Labour parties in the past. And they've never received that. So at some point, if we're in a democracy, yeah, you do have to cut migration a little bit. And if that means that care workers have to get paid more to incentivise a British person to take those jobs, then yeah, you're just going to fucking have to. We can't build an economy on this weird-ass quicksand of just importing the world's natural resources. That
That's the
isn't
thing,
going to work.
That's the thing that I said, right? Again, I'm in the same boat as you. I think we do need migration. I think it's going to be good for the economy more broadly. I support like what Joseph Stiglitz said at the start of the program, right? But people keep voting for it, right? If they want to vote to make themselves poorer, like they did with Brexit, like they did with austerity and David Cameron, like they will do if we kneecap the productive capacity of our economy by not letting people in to come here and work and be productive, right? That's the choice of the electorate. They voted for those things. They should get what they vote for.
Yeah, and Brexit is actually, I think, a pretty decent analogy for this discussion. The reason that people have gone to the more extreme situation of just outright leaving the European Union is because they've been completely abandoned by the major parties. The Labour Party were very pro-EU but realised that was unpopular, so didn't talk about it. And the Tories didn't want to open the massive gaping rift within their party, because look what happened, you know. So they didn't talk about it either. So it was just Nigel Farage screaming about this for 20 years. And if you give an absolute vacuum into which Farage can spew his evil, that's what's going to happen. The people of Sunderland or wherever are going to say, well, yeah, fuck it. The EU doesn't offer me anything, even though the only fucking infrastructure that has ever been built in Britain for the last 40 years has been EU fucking funded.
Yep. And that's the thing. That's why I get so much more angry about opposition to asylum than I do to regular migration, right?
Yeah,
because you know, the level to which the people will welcome in people from overseas to come here and work is we're on visas. That's whatever. That's a choice that they can make. I think if they make the wrong one, but they can do that, right? We have a commitment to the Refugee Convention. We have a commitment to humanity more broadly. We have a commitment to showing some level of compassion to those who are fleeing persecution, especially persecution at the hands of destabilization that we cause.
Yep.
People who undermine these covenants that we have made with humanity. I think these people are despicable. I have no love for them at all, and I will fight them on asylum every single day of the week. But when it comes
even
to
if they only break the law in specific and limited ways,
it's true. When it comes to regular migration, like I disagree, but whatever. This is a political opinion that I clearly do not have I'm not part of the majority on, and I accept that.
Yeah.
But it's coming down anyway, Home Secretary. So are you determined to bring it down still further, whatever the costs?
We do believe it needs to come down further. But the issue is that we're doing this in a way that also supports the economy by saying there's got to be requirements for training here in the UK as well.
Also, yeah, I think it is interesting that we have to do X, Y, and Z awful things because growing the economy is the only priority. Except when it comes to doing very, very, very right-wing things. And then we can just do them because, fuck it, why not? Fuck the economy. Like, I thought we were fixing the foundations. How does, I don't know, understaffing old people's homes or care, like, how does that fix any foundations? Are we doing in economics first, or I don't know?
Well, this is the problem, right?
First?
Is that at the end of the day, it's just every single department has these completely disjointed kind of strategies and goals that they want to achieve. Do we want growth? Do we want to hit people's concerns on migration? Or do we want to have a kind of unitary position in terms of our geopolitics, right? That they don't have any position that makes any sense at all.
It's almost like they have literally no plan or idea of what the fuck they're doing.
They don't even have concepts of a plan.
Literally.
Had where effectively there's no link, so anybody can just recruit from abroad, but no requirements to train in the UK, no actually addressing the serious problems in the care sector, for example. We're bringing in a fair pay agreement because we know part of the problem has been around pay and terms and conditions.
But obliging.
You've got to tackle those problems. If we carry on ignoring those deep-rooted problems in the labour market, we just carry on always thinking that immigration is the answer, then actually you just undermine both the economy and the credibility of the immigration system.
So people would like you to directly answer this. How much change to the numbers do you hope to see as a result of these plans? By how much do you hope to cut the overall number of visas being granted?
What is the odds that she's not going to directly answer that question?
Pretty high.
Yeah.
Pretty high.
If a single number comes out of her mouth, I will be flabbergasted.
We're setting out plans for a substantial reduction in net migration. You'll know that we've had many targets, promises from Conservative governments in the past, all of which have been broken. I think they've undermined the credibility of anything that governments do, and that's why we're not taking that approach. So we're not taking that specific target approach.
But you are specifically saying...
Also, pause one second.
Kev Stradamus strikes again. What can I say?
I want to point out for Liam has no game in chat. Immigration says immigration is great when you're importing skills, but we've been importing as a cost-saving measure and it's disgraceful. I think trying to say that we've been importing people is unreasonable. I'm not saying that you're being disingenuous or anything, but I think it's an unreasonable statement to make when people come here of their own volition. They want to come to the country because it's a good country to live in broadly, in terms of the grand scale of the globe. Obviously, it's pretty shit right now in terms of its own history, right? But people broadly have a high opinion of the country and they want to come here and they want to work, right? That's a decision that they've made for themselves. Importing sounds like we've just kind of grabbed them off the streets of Dhaka or of Chittagong and put them into the streets of
I know,
the UK, right?
I accept the semantic point that you're making there, and I think that is fair. What I will say is that from the perspective of private companies, especially the larger companies who have sites across the country, I think they basically do view it as an import. They don't personally import it themselves. They, purchase it from individual vendors in the form of migrants, I suppose. And they want a constant, steady flow of that because a new migrant coming in, whether they're employed legally or illegally, big companies don't give a fuck. They can pay them less. They give them absolutely no rights. And ultimately, if they kick up a fuss in any way whatsoever, there's another 20 people they could hire in that position. And so it constantly does keep down wages in some respects and keeps down the terms and conditions under which huge numbers of people in this country operate. So from the perspective of, like you say, it's not the government bringing anybody in, but collusion from certain aspects of the government and certain aspects of private industry have essentially, viewed it as an import of cheap, and in some cases, basically slave labour. That's just a fact. I'm not accusing any individual company of using slave labour. Heaven forfend. I'm just saying potentially some of them might have done.
And that's the thing. At the end of the day, the reality of this is that if you want to fix this, the answer isn't, do we shut people out? Do we do this? The answer is, of course, is collective bargaining. The answer is, of course, is have sectoral bargaining, have wages not set by a free market model, have wages set by a bargaining model between consortia of employers and trade unions representing entire sectors. That is the way in which you solve this issue, because there is a necessity for people to fill labour gaps. There is a necessity of people to come here and ensure that we maintain the productive capacity by not having an aging society, right? There is a necessity for all of these things. But the reality is, if these people are willing to work for less, then we can't let that be a way of allowing employers to undercut people. We have to have a bulwark against that, and of course the answer is collective bargaining agreements.
Yeah. Lady Badash says, honestly, saying you're importing people is dehumanising. It is, yeah. And I think the way in which they're treated by those private industry organisations and leaders is dehumanising. They don't see them as humans. They literally, even in documents and stuff, they will be described as units of labour. They're not fucking thought of as people. They're certainly not offered human rights.
You specifically on those visas, on the changes to the skilled worker visa to reduce lower skilled migration, combined with the changes to the care worker visa. Those changes will come in the course of this year, and those changes together will we expect to lead to a reduction of up to 50,000 fewer lower skilled visas over the course of the next year. And we'll set out other measures as well, but we're going to do this in a step-by-step managed approach.
I just wonder, as we were talking to Joseph Stiglitz about, traditionally, and you are an economist by training, former Treasury Minister too, immigration has been seen as being good for the economy. Do you now believe in some circumstances immigration is bad for the economy?
I think economic migration can bring huge benefits, for example, in tackling skills shortages, making sure that we can get the highest talent. And remember, as a country, we have always had people through generations coming to work in our...
If we want the highest talent, we need to get Snoop Dogg in. Highest. I am so fucking clever, give me money.
National Health Service, set up businesses and so on. That is important, but it needs to be controlled and managed so the system is fair. If you have these very high levels of overseas recruitment, no training here in the UK, then the consequence is you see these distortions in the labour market. You see these actually undermining the economy. It's bad for productivity, it's bad for growth, and just means it's a continual short-termism in the system rather than investing in productivity.
So immigration
making
can
sure that we
sometimes
get
undermine the
a right
economy.
system.
That's interesting. We've talked to you on lots of other occasions about the other side of this coin, illegal immigration, and whether that's small boats or asylum hotels. We're short on time today.
I did see a very interesting point made by some economists before, which was that actually what happens a lot if you do allow people to migrate who are low skilled, a lot of those people, the increase in the density of labour market of those people means that there are lots of people on the bottom rung who are migrants. But you need people to supervise these people, and those are usually people from that other population who get from the existing population who get promoted into that position. So there are a lot of people, whilst GDP per capita might go down, for example, if there are loads of low skilled people, a bunch of the people who are the ones who complain about that stuff are the ones who are going to be getting higher wages because they're in the supervisory roles, which I find quite interesting. Also, I want to say thank you to Jack Mellor for the $9.99.
Jack Mellor.
The Jack Mellor. Thank you very much for the subs for that. Also, thank you Wolfpet for the $4.99 as well. Don't worry about stopping care workers coming in. There's always assisted dying. Very dark and very funny. Just a bit behind. Speaking of high-speed trains, today I learned it was British Rail being state-owned and having a good R&D department. Yeah, the rest of the world, the high-speed tech it uses to this day. I did not know that. Very interesting fact there.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, your monitor's back. Hello?
Hello?
I said, are your monitors back?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
Okay.
I do just want you to elaborate on something that has been suggested by the Home Office overnight. When things go wrong with foreign nationals who are here, the Home Office is now going to be told straight away when a foreign national has committed an offence. What would you do with that information? Are you confident that will lead to...
Why don't the Home Office already know this? Yeah. Isn't it them that run this system?
You'd have thought so.
What? Hang on. If it's not them keeping track of this, who the fuck has been keeping track of this? Isn't it? I always assume when you see numbers of, like, people arrested, people put in jail, those are Home Office numbers. Has there been some separate body that has been doing this all this time? What the fuck? That's... no wonder they're fucking useless then. I assume these were their numbers. Fuck me. Honestly, government doesn't know what the fuck it's doing, does it?
Do you want to deport more people, or what's your plan?
So we've increased the deportations, removals of foreign national offenders by 16% since the election. We want to go further. At the moment, the Home Office is not notified if people don't get a custodial sentence, but there are lots of repeat offenders who might be here on short-term visas. Those visas should be revoked. People should be returned. So we're going to bring in new...
but I do have to ask, why don't you get notified of this? Who's keeping this information? Why aren't we talking to them? Because you don't have a fucking clue. You're the Home Secretary and you don't know this information.
And it's crazy. This was probably like the paradigm before under the Conservatives, like 15 fucking years.
Yeah, like what? Has this been the case forever? Or is it? Oh God, I bet it's been outsourced.
Yes,
fucking,
almost certainly.
Oh, of course,
almost
it's fucking Serco or some bunch of wank. Palantir now run the system, so they only tell them occasionally if it's a murderer.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Like, oh, for fuck's sake! Again, this country's so cocked, it's unbelievable.
Procedures that will mean that the Home Office gets much more information about people committing crimes and can, as a result, take much swifter action on revoking visas and on removals as well.
So your plan is to deport more foreign nationals who commit crime? That's a commitment to people today.
That's what we think needs to happen. We know that it will take
the
time.
Same as
yes, that's our intention. We're already doing it. We know some of the new procedures will take time, but this is because I just believe if you come to the UK, if you're given a visa to come to the UK, you should abide by UK laws. That's part of respect for the rules and making...
Why? The fucking House of Commons doesn't. MPs get away with shit all the time. Fucking Wes Streeting's mate showed his cup to a 13-year-old and chased her down the street. That was fine. He didn't even go to fucking jail, so you didn't even learn about that. Apparently, you weren't told.
You just conveniently ignored it.
Yeah, interesting.
Making sure that those rules are respected and enforced.
Okay, Home Secretary, one of the other issues that we've discussed with you previously is around grooming gangs. Now, it's an important issue to many people.
Now, again, when it says grooming gangs, it doesn't just mean backbenchers. It means people outside of the House of Commons as well, who might also
They exist
be
there
groomers.
as well. It's true. There are multiple different kinds of grooming gangs.
There are. We are only going to talk about the brown ones, obviously, because they're the only ones that anyone ever talks about.
Well, that's what grooming gang means, right? It's only if it comes from the brown regions of Britain. Anything else, and it's just sparkling group sexual assault.
True.
It's seen very much as a national scandal, and in the last couple of days we have learned that the Casey report that's been looking at this is likely to be published in the next couple of weeks. But yesterday I sat down with one of the victims of this terrible crime, one of those young victims abused by groups of men for many years. Their stories were often ignored and hardly any action taken. Steph, who I met, whose story was told in a recent documentary.
It's hard to take this faux moral outrage that seriously when we know that it's from the BBC, who protected, just scores of the worst people ever. Jimmy Savile being the most prominent, but
we should be talking about the fact. What was it? Operation Stovetop, was it, that found out the reason why none of this shit was ever became or Stovewood, Operation Stovewood. That's the one where we found out that the reason why none of this shit came to light is because the fucking people were colluding with the fucking police.
Yeah.
The police were being colluded with by the people who were committing the fucking crimes.
Of course it is, because the police are the most corrupt organisation ever. They're awful. God almighty. At the same time that all this, the Rotherham rape scam. Are you surprised that the Yorkshire police weren't dealing with this? They were too busy covering up yet another inquiry into Hillsborough. Do you know what I mean? Fucking hell.
Also, thank you,
for Channel 4 has now decided
£10 super chat. It's not a fixable problem, at least in the short term. We can't manage without economic migration, yet we won't accept it either, as well as diverting resources from the other countries who need them. Yeah, very true.
Exactly. No migration, no financial collapse, just no migration. You can't have it both at the minute.
Yeah, it's the dog with the chew toy in it.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
To go public for the first time, waiving her right to anonymity. No one has ever faced justice for abusing her from the age of 12, and she believes that one of her abusers was a police officer. I spoke to her alongside the detective turned campaign.
Police officer? No one's mentioned police officers doing these things at all. Weird how you saying it like it's a surprise when these people are fucking colluding. We know.
Laura, are you not backing the blue? What's going on here? On this show, we stand with our police, who are impeccable and should definitely be treated as trustworthy citizens in courtrooms. Honest.
Also, I don't know whether you want to watch this a bit, but what I would say is that I've just sent you a message on Twitter. We have an update on the Adrien Ramsey situation.
Oh. Okay. What have we got?
So yeah, this is an update on Adrien Ramsey with regards to the Green Party leadership election, which we were just watching him criticise with regards to Zach Polanski's bid for leader. It's at the timestamp is 10:07.
10:07. I don't see 10:07. I've got
22:07. It would be
22:07. Okay, 1 second.
So it does by time rather than by clock rather than by time.
Okay, doke.
Independent as a country on mass low-skill migration. That's created pressure on public services, it's undermined social cohesion, and it's also, I think, one of the reasons why our productivity in this country has stagnated.
Group, which operates homes in North Yorkshire. He says they're running out of options.
We would like to recruit more people from this country, but we cannot.
Hold a leadership contest every 2 years.
Go back again,
Last year's was delayed because of the...
We can't recruit from overseas, we can't recruit in this country, and we're looking after more and more people are getting dependent.
Two Green MPs, Ellie Chowns and Adrien Ramsey, have launched a joint leadership bid, telling members of the party that they must grow to be ready for power.
What a surprise. I am very shocked by this.
The guy who was saying, "Ooh, watch this space, we'll make a decision in the future, wink, wink, nudge, nudge," was obviously definitely 100% running for leader.
Yep.
Under its rules, the Greens must hold a leadership contest every 2 years. Last year's was delayed because of the general election. The party's deputy leader, Zach Polanski, has already launched his bid for the leadership, saying it needed to build a mass movement to counter reform. Pope Leo has used his first Sunday...
And again, they say, I mean, as much as I think that Ellie is nice, I mean, she does kind of have briefcase energy.
Yeah, that would be a pretty drippy ticket. And I don't mean drippy as in they dress well, because they don't. I mean, you know, a wet drip.
Well, Ellie certainly dresses better than Adrien. Let's put it out there.
I mean, true, but yeah, because yeah. I mean, she does.
I'm shocked that Ellie threw in with him. I would have expected Ellie to run on her own ticket.
A little bit, yeah. Again, I can't help but feel that Westminster does rather poison people's minds, but you know, we'll see. Well, yeah, there you go. Breaking news, everybody. Oh God. Yeah, I hope Polanski does it.
Actually, it's true. It's both of the rural Green MPs together.
Oh, that's true. Okay, yeah, that makes a bit more sense.
They cannot be allowed to win. They absolutely cannot be allowed to win the leadership election.
Because it'll just be no pylons. Vote Green.
Literally, it'll just be the anti-pylon party. Oh. Thank you for this many gifted, Jack. I appreciate it.
Painter Maggie Oliver, who first met her when she told of what was going on.
I was 12, nearly 13. Yeah. I lived in the children's home, started going out with some of the girls, trying to make friends. They take me to different flats where we drink, take drugs, cocaine, and I was just drunk all the time, being young. Then obviously being introduced to different males.
And what was done to you?
I was sexually abused, passed around, just locked in a house, flat I should say. Just passed to people taking turns on me.
What was that like for you to have that happen at such a terribly young age when you were so vulnerable?
I don't know. I was troubled. I was very troubled as young. I was screaming out for help. No one was listening to me. It's like I self-sabotaged myself.
What would you like then to happen now?
I want justice like we was promised. I don't want him to, you know, no one's taking accountability for it.
She's just found her voice after 20 years. She told me what had happened 20 years ago. That's the scandal here.
Grooming gangs have become a huge topic of conversation among politicians. What's it like for you hearing those things, hearing that sort of really angry political conversation about grooming?
Yeah, it makes me angry.
I will just clarify and say Asian grooming gangs have been a hotter topic. Not grooming as total or child abuse more generally.
Well, because again, as we said before, as we said, grooming gang is specifically a way of describing what is already captured the public's imagination as being specifically an Asian problem, right? Yeah. By using the vernacular of grooming gang rather than the actual offence, which is group sexual assault or group child sexual assault in a lot of these cases, which of course which is inclusive of all of the white people who also did this too.
Yeah, it's a very effective dog whistle at this point.
Especially the comment of the dog whistler and stuff like that. It's not very nice to us as victims.
It's frustrating. thing is, Lucy Powell was right. They do it as a dog whistle. They are using it. They don't care about the victims, these people.
Yeah.
The one who get mad, who we've been bringing up as a political issue. They don't care about the victims. They care about using it to attack Muslims. That's all they do. They're trying to use it as to essentially spark a fucking race war, rather than the reality, which is that if you actually do genuinely care about Group CSA, especially, you won't try and pinpoint a certain race as being the problem when every race is a problem.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the one group that is specific and unique to a lot of these cases, men.
Yeah.
But we don't say deport all the men, do we?
Cis dudes. As always, the same with the fucking toilet thing. The people are sexual abusers are predominantly cis men.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact. But no, it's the transes and the Muslims is literally going to be Labour Party policy next week, I'm sure.
So the government minister, Lucy Powell, said
Yeah.
when someone else raised grooming gangs, it was
Yeah.
a dog whistle.
Yeah.
What went through your mind when you heard that?
She's not been through nothing herself, has she? She doesn't know how we actually feel.
I don't think she was accusing you of dog whistling. Like, not to defend Lucy Powell, who is a twat, but like, she was accusing like Nigel Farage and his ilk, who are definitely using it as a dog whistle.
We've got a constant reminder of it every day. You know, and it's still going on.
Do you think this is still happening, that grooming gangs are still targeting vulnerable young girls like you were?
Yeah, you see it in certain areas. I've seen.
Yeah. Fucking, we've literally got a friend of the groomer and Peter Mandelson as the fucking ambassador to the United States. And the president of the United States, who was also very much close friends with the said sex trafficker. So,
They were
yeah.
literally visiting in prison, had a pet name, all that kind of stuff. We don't know what other relationship they could have had potentially, but we do know that they were acquaintances at the very least.
I think birthday party suggests more than acquaintances. I think that you're pretty fucking chummy at that stage.
Seeing it myself.
And Trump knew him for years and years. There's no way.
Oh yeah, Trump was even fucking closer than Mandelson.
Yeah. Literally was using his fucking plane in the most recent election. Now, long after his death, of course, but still. Also, on the point of Trump's planes, did you see he's taken a personal ownership of a plane given to him by the state of Qatar?
Yes, he's been gifted.
Which he will be using as Air Force One and then keeping for his own personal use afterwards. How is that legal? In any what? That's like a plane is a pretty big bribe. Like, that's pretty out there. Like, that's a big ass. Like, that's a big thing. That's not like cash under the table that people might not notice. You're inside it, for fuck's sake.
You see young girls still doing as what I was doing, and I wish I could just go over to them and drag them away.
Steph is here speaking. There are thousands of victims and survivors like Steph who feel betrayed.
Is that what you feel, Steph?
Yeah, betrayed.
Why?
Well, false hope, isn't it? We were going to put it right, and they haven't. It's lies what they've done. It's sickening.
Do you feel after all this time then that politicians and the police still aren't listening?
No, they're not listening. They ain't listening.
Maggie and Steph, thanks so much for speaking to us today. Thank you. Well, the documentary with more of those stories is still on the Channel 4 streaming platform, and Greater Manchester Police have told us in Steph's case they've accepted and apologised for past failings and are committed to ensuring victims are...
Oh, that's okay. If the police just fuck everything up and make things worse all the time, all they have to do is apologise 20 years too late and then it's fine.
Literally, I'm sorry. Oops, sorry that we were incredibly fucking corrupt.
Yeah, like after the Stephen Lawrence thing, they were found to be racial, the systemic racist, right? So they came out and apologised, said we're going to fix this, and then 10 years after that, they were found to be racist and said we're sorry and we're going to fix this, and rinse and repeat every fucking 5 to 10 years.
Literally.
Jesus Christ, they're just awful. I mean, nothing tells you exactly how awful they are than one of their own officers raping and killing a woman, and then the vigil for that woman raiding the place and like handcuffing the people doing a vigil for your victim. It's a bit on the nose, lads. I'd have left it if I were you. You know. But, you know, never wants to give up an opportunity to be wankers.
Listen to. Home Secretary, it's very affecting when you hear a young woman who's been through what Steph went through, years of abuse from the age of 12, say politicians are still not listening. What do you say to that?
These are, I mean, the most horrendous crimes of all against children, particularly young girls, young women as well. The most awful exploitation and sexual crimes, just horrendous. And it's also devastating what Steph, of course, has gone through, just awful. And to be let down as well so many times, both by the perpetrators committing the crimes and then by the failures of systems to properly sort that out and get justice.
The police!
I think
the corrupt police! Mention the corrupt police! The police... Oh, fucking pathetic. Pathetic.
The Home Secretary is never going to criticise the police. Because she's just the top cop.
True.
You know?
Is we still need much stronger police investigations into these crimes. We need to see more of these perpetrators behind bars, and we need
well, of course,
see...
the police can't investigate all of these crimes, otherwise there won't be any police left to investigate the crime. You see, it's sort of a self-destroying machine in that sense, you know.
The action taken. So we have obviously instigated much stronger response now from police across the country, and we're waiting, as you said, for the Louise Casey report to come back.
But you've refused the national...
Yay! Yet another thing where the police will come out and say, we accept our failings, we're super, super sorry, and we're going to change, we promise. And then in 20 years, there'll be another one, and another one, and another one. Fucking awful. Never have to pay any fucking cost for it whatsoever. They just get ever-increasing funding to do what? I mean, not even nothing. If they did nothing, that would be a net improvement on the current situation. They make everything fucking worse. And there's no peaceful protest they can't turn violent. There's no simmering racial tensions they can't inflame. There's no minority group they can't victimise. Like, they're just fucking trash.
Inquiry, and we've talked about that before, but many of the ideas suggested previously by another major inquiry into child abuse won't be implemented for years. I know you set out a plan, so you don't need to say you set out a plan, but many of the ideas won't come into force till 2026, even 2027. Where's the urgency for people like her? You've been in charge for nearly a year, and she believes you're not on this, you don't get it.
So the immediate action that we've taken, that I think is probably the most...
I'll let you talk your shit in a second. I'll just translate. I'll pre-translate. She doesn't give a fuck about this. She wants this to go away. This is not a priority for her whatsoever. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sent Jess Phillips out there to announce that, no, fuck you, we're not doing these inquiries, you bags of shit, as the last thing announced before going on the recess.
True, and on top of that, then also kind of U-turning and saying that we're going to get more investigations anyway, because they just don't. All they want to do is position themselves best politically for this, rather than do what is actually best in terms of how this issue is resolved.
Yeah.
Important is to fund increased police investigations and to also...
Yay, more money for the police.
Chief Constable.
Definitely, that's what we need to do, is give the police more money that they will definitely use wisely and not use to cover up their involvement in all of these crimes anyway. No, definitely, that's what we need to do. Why don't we just call it like a whitewash tax?
Literally.
Just be honest about it, because that's all this is. You give them extra money, they put together a task force quango, middle-class wankers sit around and go, the police were a bit bad. The police say, we were bad. Sorry, we'll improve, and then carry on.
in the country to now review what they are doing and to reopen closed cases where no further action was taken, because we need that police investigation to pursue those perpetrators and prevent those crimes taking place, including historic crimes as well as crimes that are still taking place. But of course, you are right. There is more that we need to do, and that's why the Louise Casey report, I think, will set out really the scale of the challenge nationally. As you know, with Louise, she does no-holds-barred reports and very hard-hitting.
And in terms of that report, will you commit today that you will publish that? You will publish it straight away?
We will publish the report. I haven't received the report yet, so I don't know what Louise's conclusions are, but she has been looking at, particularly it's the scale and nature of it across the country and the problems that have been faced.
And if she tells you, she's known for her plain speaking, that this is a bigger problem than previously thought, would you consider again having a national inquiry, which is what opposition parties want you to do?
Well, I am concerned actually about the scale of the problem, because I think that police forces, local authorities are still not taking...
Yeah, Mr. Peter Wood says Sir Robert Peel was a C-bomb, but I'm sure he'd be shocked at the state of stuff now. I'm sure he would too, because when they first started, they weren't even about crimes. They were about just protecting order.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, the CID, the Criminal Investigation Department, wasn't founded until 20 years after the police were founded. They were literally just like, oh, let's have a way of keeping, like, protests down that don't involve the cavalry killing people. It was literally instigated after the Peterloo massacre, right? Where literally fucking cavalry with swords cutting away at people. Like, that's not on in a relatively modern place, so let's have the police do it with truncheons instead. Much more humane. You know. And literally that's what they used to do, a thing called knocking up as well. Before alarm clocks, police would go around and literally like knock on people's doors to wake them up for work. Because they weren't about doing crime prevention or anything like that. It was literally just keeping order in a place. And what's better than that than having people go to work? They earn the money, they go back home, everything's fine.
Yeah. Enough action against it. So what we also want to set up a child protection agency, as well as having the mandatory...
And you've not put a date on when you're going to do that, but that's interesting. I just wonder, would you look again at the notion of having a national inquiry if Louise Casey comes to you and says, this is bigger than we thought. Nothing has changed since she did a report years ago on what was happening in Rotherham, for example. Would you look at it again?
Well, what we'll look at is what is the action that is needed to deliver change and to make sure both that victims can get justice and also that perpetrators can end up behind bars. So I haven't seen...
Again, it's so galling to hear them talk about victims getting justice and this and that and other. Literally, like, I mean, it's not really allied, other than the fact it's to do with fucking corruption and Yorkshire and the police. The Bradford fire, which people may or may not know about, 1985, 56 people burned to death at a football match. Not a single person was ever prosecuted for that.
Nope.
That was fine. Just dozens of people go to a football match and die. And even though willingly and obviously they broke the law by never doing safety checks and just allowing the situation to be fucking awful, to the point where this was bound to happen at some point, no one was ever prosecuted. Same with Hillsborough. No one was ever prosecuted. If you're poor in Britain, your life doesn't matter to the state.
And that's the thing, and they explicitly made sure that no one got prosecuted because there was a massive fucking cover-up at Hillsborough.
Not just that, you know who covered it up, really? Was the investigating police force, which on this occasion was the West Midlands Police Force. Yeah, we did the investigation into South Yorkshire, and we colluded with them to change witness statements, including witness statements from members of the South Yorkshire Police.
Incredible.
To cut out criticism of the South Yorkshire Police.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's like the perfect storm of corruption.
It's the encapsulation of the rot at the heart of every single British institution.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Power protecting power. That's it.
Jobs for the boys.
Yep.
These recommendations yet. We'll of course look at all of them, but the most important thing is to do things that deliver justice.
Well, Catherine, you do the joke about it would never happen at the tennis. If Wimbledon had one death, there would be a public inquiry. There would be prosecutions. The works. If someone eating strawberries and cream was injured, the country would fucking know about it. But it's just dozens of Scousers. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? They're poor people. Ugh. So they just get to die. That doesn't matter.
As you'll know,
and not just that, but they get to die, and then collusion from the government, police, and media blame the people who were killed, and their friends and family for having killed them, when they didn't.
Yep.
Honestly, Calvin Mackenzie, no torture thought of by the mind of man could ever be justified in using against Calvin Mackenzie, because he's a human being with human rights.
Very excellently
Good
well
save.
made point, Kevin.
Good
Very
save.
excellently made point. I absolutely agree with you that you should not use those things on anybody, especially not people who are humans like Calvin Mackenzie.
Technically human, yes.
Technically human, allegedly so.
Yeah.
We have had the national inquiry into child abuse, which lasted 7 years. We have other inquiries. The undercover policing inquiry, for example, is still underway, and that has been going for 10 years. I think.
Oh, the undercover policing inquiry, where they essentially raped women under the guise of being their partners, but they weren't really. They were undercover police officers, so, not informed consent in any real respect. Had children with them, started families in order to infiltrate, like, environmentalist groups and Greenpeace and stuff, and then when their assignment ended, they just left them. That undercover policing inquiry.
Woo! Love it. Love this country.
So cool and awesome.
Yeah, spy cops sounds cooler than secret rapists. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, the PR, you've got to give it to them. They do sell themselves a lot better than they deserve to.
Been a lot of these inquiries over a long period of time. The biggest question is about what is the urgent action that we need to take. But of course, we will look at whatever Louise comes forward with about whatever further action is needed.
Again, David Duckenfield, there is not a torture thought of in the seventh circle of hell.
It should not be used on him in any
Should be
circumstance.
not used on him as well, because he is a human being that lives in California. Bizarrely.
Very briefly, Steph says she still sees this happening. She sees it happening in communities where she lives, and it sounds like you also
That's my big concern, is that I think police need much stronger action right now into these kinds of crimes to prevent them happening now. It's why we're also strengthening the law on child exploitation, including also online grooming, and strengthening the sentencing requirements on grooming as well. The online is a really important growing aspect of this, and that is now linked as well.
You do fear that grooming gangs are still
I think we
operating.
need to continue.
If the police ever gain sentience and learn how to use computers, they will also do their grooming there. But thankfully for now, you have to learn to turn things on and press buttons, and it fries their brains. They do occasionally shoot up the wrong computer. An innocent computer dies every now and then,
Continue, because we've seen it happening online. It is growing. We've seen the massive increase online, and that's why we need stronger laws, but stronger police action as well.
Home Secretary, thanks very much.
Thank
Always
you.
good to have you with us in the studio ahead of a big day for you tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed for your time. And if you have been affected by any of the issues in our conversation with Steph, there are lots of resources, help and support on the BBC Action Line website. The address for that is there for you on the screen. And of course, remember, we want to know what you think. You can email us, koonsberg@bbc.co.uk, or on social media, use the hashtag BBC Laura Kay, and we'd like to know what you thought of what Yvette Cooper's plans on immigration are. Let's then start with what we were discussing, Sian, about these grooming gangs. Now, you are a journalist, people will recognise you from that, but you are now a psychologist and working with some vulnerable people. What did you make of what we've just been discussing and what you heard from Steph there?
Well, I thought it was really powerful, and I can only commend Steph for speaking, because it's hard enough to sit in front of a psychologist if you've experienced sexual violence at an early age and talk about it, but to do it in public, that's a big thing. And if Steph is watching, it will make a huge difference to those who are hearing her voice but know the experience that she's gone through. Trauma comes from the Greek for wound, and that's what it's like. It's a wound to the soul. And when I heard Steph saying things like she's self-sabotaging and that she lives with this every day, it feels like a life sentence. You are carrying shame, which is not yours to hold. You are living a life sentence which should go to somebody else. This is the difficulty that people are facing.
That's
I
a good point,
was
actually,
really
in chat from
gratified
Boysdale.
to hear the Home Secretary talking about
The actually heavier sentences probably won't do anything, right, to change this. The reality is actually talking about prevention and increasing the prosecution rate, rather than talking about the length of sentence, which is neither here nor there.
Yes, this is a really odd and nuanced one, but when people the weird virtue signalling that some far rightoids will do about, like, we need to start executing paedophiles, might sound cathartic or interesting, but we actually know that will make it less likely that certain victims will come forward. It actually will make the problem worse, because as with the vast majority of violent crimes, or sexual crimes I should say, the victim knows the perpetrator. It's often a family member, a close friend of the family, a relative, a teacher, a priest, whatever. And so they don't want that person to be executed. Even though they know they've done something bad to them and don't like it, the idea of them telling a parent or an authority figure and getting that person potentially killed means that they're going to be less likely to come forward. So actually, your virtue signalling makes the situation worse.
Yep.
Much like these fucking weird dickheads who go on and do, like, to catch a predator, but, like, amateurs. You get in the way of actual investigations. Stop it. You're making it worse. Anyway, as always with right-wingers, reactionary politics doesn't get the end result they want.
About the potential of reopening closed cases and getting some justice. I would say that if that is being done, what would be really helpful is those involved in child protection cases and those cases are trauma-informed. Because very often if you've been through a trauma, memories are fractured. And therefore the narrative might not seem coherent, and it's really...
Oh God, Adrien Ramsey and Richard Tice are one and the same, apparently.
Oh yeah, Richard Tice saying that he's going to block, like, pylons in his constituency.
Yeah. Oh no, solar farms, battery storage are trying to build pylons.
No, you will pay high energy bills.
God.
We will fight you every step of the way, right? Literally, the war on pylons.
Look, we've got to find a solution to pylons and the causes of pylons. Oh no, that is the wrong one. That is for later. That's for when Chris Philp comes on. My favourite clip of Chris Philp ever.
difficult. These are very vulnerable people. So I would say make sure that those who are dealing with them know what they're doing. Okay. And again,
so
well
not
done,
the police
Steph,
then?
really.
And we'll definitely hear more about this in the coming weeks, because we expect the Dame Louise Casey's report, which the Home Secretary committed to publishing, we expect that to be published sometime towards the end of this month. Let's then turn to our main discussion with the Home Secretary on immigration.
Thank you, Adam. I didn't realise this. Apparently the big pylon project, Viking Link is a pylon project, right? Adam, in Lincolnshire has already been built.
Well, we're going to tear it down then. Fuck them.
Yes, yeah, that's right. By the way, pylon is a word that everyone uses. These actually, there is no such thing as a pylon. That's not what they're called. They're called transfer towers. I learnt this the other week from my friend who's a child surveyor.
Yeah. I want to know, did you find out what the chanting was 2 weeks ago? No, it just I've got a haunted house. Apparently, I've just haunted house.
Economy. It was interesting, Joseph, to hear her say then, in some cases, immigration can undermine the economy. As a Nobel Prize winner, where do you think the UK economy is right now? How shaky do you think it is? Or are there signs, as the government hopes, of things getting a bit better?
Well, the UK has had some long-term problems like lack of productivity. Some of those problems were exacerbated by Brexit. It didn't make things any easier. And then your UK is immersed, like all the other countries, in the post-pandemic.
How much do you think Richard Tice wants to racially abuse this man? Gonna keep that going.
Inflation, the war, Russian invasion of Ukraine was a big disturbance to the global economy. And then finally we have Trump trade war, another big disturbance to the economy. In that context, my sense is you need all the buffers you can, all the flexibility you can
Anything you can get.
Anything you can get.
And what then
there are going to be supply shortages. There are going to be, one of the things we're talking about in the United States is what Trump is doing couldn't be worse. At the same time, he's destroying long-established supply chains. He's also trying to constrain the immigrants that we need.
He did, though, this week, Louis, do a trade deal, such as it has
And to
been
be fair,
titled. Some people say it's a bit skinny.
In a similar way to Britain, when he says he's disrupting supply chains, that could include the migrants, of course, because that's how American business has treated migrants for years, as a cheap labour source coming from south of the border. They don't give a fuck. It's the same basic fucking idea.
Yep.
Huge sectors of America's economy runs on Venezuelan farmers and stuff, you know.
And the thing is it's having the extra labour is good, having the additional productive capacity is good. How about we get these people citizenship and a trade union so that they can work with dignity rather than being used as just slave labour.
Yeah. But no, the immigrants coming in and taking black jobs. You can't forget that.
the famous black jobs.
Black jobs, you know.
Well, I'll be interested in your view in just a second. But you were actually there, I understand, with the Trump-Starmer big first talks in February. You were there in D.C., in the White House, I think. Are you worried in the way that Joseph is about what Trump's doing and the impact on the economy?
Well, I think the trade deal that was signed this week was a good first step, but it does only cover most industrial goods, and that is far from being
he even looks
the majority
like Max
of our
Mosley.
combined US-UK
He actually really does, yeah.
economies. So I think there's a lot more still to go. One thing that I found very...
Are they going to ask about him selling weapons to Israel at all?
We'll just talk about how fucking evil Palantir are in basically every single possible way, right?
The fact that they want to privatise the NHS.
Just like if you could design like an evil corporation for like a movie or a video game, like you would you wouldn't design what Palantir do because you'd think it would be too obvious.
Yeah, they are Umbrella Corp.
Literally.
Yeah.
Promising was in the Oval Office itself. You'll have seen Trump and Lord Mandelson, the British ambassador.
Oh yeah, the two pedo friends, yeah. Super pedo friends.
As in friends of a, well, not them themselves.
Yeah, obviously, of course that's what I meant. How could that have been misinterpreted? Please, I would never suggest such a thing about those two upstanding gentlemen.
Talking about the next phase, about a tech partnership. And I think tech and science is where it now needs to go.
And people, if they don't know, Palantir is a huge company in the US. You've got lots of contracts with the White House, and your founder, Peter Thiel, I think, has got a lot of relationship with Donald Trump. But you were making a face, shall I say, politely.
That's it. That's literally it. That's your investigation there of Palantir as a company.
Woo!
Award-winning journalism.
Yes, let's not forget the awards that she wins for being an incisive journalist.
Yes.
And when Louis was praising the US-UK trade deal such as it is, how would you describe it?
I would have strong reservations on a number of grounds. First, it undermined one of the basic, long-standing principles of the rule of law in international trade, which is what's called the most favored nations principle. You give the same treatment to everybody. And it was an attempt, it's been what Trump is trying to do, is bargain here, bargain there, destroy what has been created over 80 years after World War II.
So
and
did he pull
you are complicitous in this undermining the international rule of law, and I wouldn't be proud of that.
Did Keir Starmer...
Oh, wow. Okay. That's about as spicy as I've ever seen on this show. Yeah. No, you should actually be ashamed of that, sir. Yeah.
True. By the way, you know what you should also be ashamed of? Not giving money to me and Kevin.
That is also true.
No, that's true. You don't have to. But if you would like to contribute, you can obviously subscribe on Twitch for $4.99 for free with Twitch Prime by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account for a free sub every single month. Or you watching over on YouTube. If you have Amazon Prime, if you already pay for it, you can literally give some of Jeff Bezos' money to either me or Kevin by
Yes.
linking Amazon Prime to Twitch. Literally, it's free, and we get some of Jeff Bezos' money, and you get all the benefits of being a sub. So jump over to Twitch quickly if you want to be able to help us out that way. You can also do Twitch bits messages. 100 bits gets you text to speech. You can unmark 200 Kev send. You can be a member on YouTube for 99p. You can gift memberships to spread the love around to get access to all the emotes in YouTube chat. And you can super chat to guarantee having your message read out on stream as well.
Indeed.
Have one pulled over on him. I mean, was the UK taken for a ride?
I think he was trying to do the best he could in a particular frame of mind where he's going off on his own. And the question is that the best frame of mind? My own view is bargaining needs to be done in strength. If you're a strong...
This man has hair like a slightly overused tennis ball.
It's true.
It's not a
bless
problem,
him.
but yeah, it's just, yeah. I kind of want to just sort of fluff it up a little bit.
economy like China, you can bargain strongly.
So
UK is not that big. If UK had joined EU in bargaining, and you could have done it, even though you're outside of the EU, you can get together without anybody else.
So is this a party political broadcast from the Liberal Democrats now? This is Ed Davey in an old man suit.
And bargain.
That's the only way they'll let him in the
they would be bargaining
studio.
with strength. That's exactly what Trump wanted. Piece by piece. Take the weakest country first, get that, then go after the next country.
Oh, no, the weakest country.
We're the weakest link. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, the imperial nostalgists in the mud.
Oh no. Empire booze in pieces right now.
Literally, we're in the cock chair. We are literally in the cock chair.
Oh no. Oh.
It is, as I say, a strategy where he hopes to win. And finally, let me pick up what was just said. Trump doesn't understand economics, doesn't understand trade.
True.
And he's focusing on trade in goods, steel, cars. A 21st century economy is about services.
And as
like
you
tech
said,
services.
tech, which is a massive thing, and Palantir is now one of these mega tech huge companies, and we'll come to your role in just a second, but
I mean, okay, I wasn't expecting a hard-hitting one, but you don't have to ride his dick. Fuck me. Palantir is huge and awesome and has loads of big contracts.
Well, they're
Tell
quite
me,
literally
why is
evil.
your company
They're literally evil.
Why is your company such a runaway freight train?
And I just wonder if, for the Prime Minister, whatever was in the deal, however good or not it is, the government still has a massive challenge in people feeling any benefit from this. Do you think that the public is in any way, shape or form feeling more optimistic after, trade deal with India, trade deal with America?
No.
Well, I think we have to see, don't we?
Anyone who says, yeah, the country's feeling super optimistic after these trade deals is a Westminster bubble hermit. No one in the country gives a shit about this. It doesn't affect them particularly at all. Like, in some loose sense, if the economy gets a bit better, fine, whatever, but no one gives a fuck about this. Like, Keir Starmer needs a win, desperately, because he just got embarrassed at the ballot box. But that's the only difference it realistically makes on a political level at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a short term, like, oh, we got a slightly positive headline in the Mirror. Who cares?
Because as Joseph points out, in terms of the detail, we don't quite know what the detail is yet. I think there will be steel workers who will breathe a huge sigh of relief. Obviously, in the car trade, a 10% tariff is better than a 27.5% tariff, but then that lasts a year and on a certain number of cars. So I think it's sort of we wait to see.
Okay, what about the farmers who now are going to have to compete against like massive ranchers in America with their hormone chlorinated chicken beef hybrid creatures?
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
What the detail is.
But Louis, some
Let me
people.
say one thing. Uncertainty is really bad, and Trump has been maximizing uncertainty.
That he enjoyed. Flood the zone, says the phrase. But Louis, Palantir is one of these mega huge tech companies that seems to be really thriving in this new world, partly because of what you're doing here with the government and the NHS and local councils, but also with...
Oh, selling the privatisation of the NHS is a good thing. Honestly,
Woo!
don't overwork the manufacturing consent machine because it might just fucking explode.
It's so true. Literally. Just allowing these people on the public broadcaster, the supposedly impartial public broadcaster, just talk about how wonderful and excellent it is that we are going to be essentially becoming a vassal state, not just of the American empire, but also its oligarch backers as well.
Yeah. We're not going to be Airstrip 1, we're going to be Palantir 1.
With what's happening in the US. I mean, I think sometimes our viewers and people in this studio are a bit worried about what the big tech companies are doing and just how big they are to start with.
Well, I think that size
we care about
power
people that they're going to
is
murder. We care about all the people that will die in Palestine using fucking dystopian surveillance software that you are giving to fucking Israel.
Yeah, there's that, definitely. I mean, them becoming too powerful is also an issue, yes. But, you know, are they as powerful as Amazon or Microsoft already are? You know, like, AI is dumb and needs to stop and go away forever just because it would annoy Tony Blair. But that's, it's the killing people.
Really a function of the power of the technology that they are inventing. I think we are at the very early stages of a profound AI revolution that is going to transform all aspects of our lives, our economies, our jobs, and...
I'm just going to say no, it isn't. I might be proven wrong by history, but I don't think it's going to do that.
No.
I think they're putting a lot of faith in it doing that because they need a constant, massive expansion of technological advancement. They need a new iPhone every 6 minutes if they can.
Yep.
But, you know.
The truth is a lot of that is being developed in the US. Primarily, it is a US endeavour, but we in the UK have a very, very unique competitive advantage globally in the talent base we have. Outside of the US, in the West, broadly defined, we are the only country that has the quantity and quality of that kind of engineer that you need to do AI.
Some people look at what's happening. There's even a group of
Literally to be allowed to sell the idea that we should become a fucking AI super hub. Not just is that what the Palantir wants, but it's the fucking Labour Party's manifesto pledge. AI superpower shit. Like, why are we allowing these people just to be able to fucking propagandize at us in the public broadcaster?
Yeah, we're paying for this. Brilliant.
Thank you, Optimistic Nihilist, for the Prime sub. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Your employees in the US have written a letter who think that the company's not behaving ethically, doing things like getting involved in surveillance of people who are going to be deported. And I think some people in this country look at that and think, we don't really want our government to be doing that kind of business.
Yeah, well, I would push back very strongly at those critiques. I think, you know, we are, well, firstly, we have been a company that's never worked in countries that are adversarial to the West. So China, Russia, and so forth. And secondly, we don't play politics. So...
Fuck off. Peter Thiel could have... How much money did he give to Trump?
And even then, it's like, you're a fucking spyware firm. Of course you play politics.
Yeah.
Who you choose to do business with as a fucking political action. Well, I mean, how much surveillance software have you sold to Hamas recently? Like, I'm not saying that you should necessarily, right? For people watching from the UK government.
Yeah, I was about
very,
to say,
very clear.
they are
I'm
a
not,
prescribed terrorist group, be careful.
I'm not saying that you should be selling surveillance software to Hamas, but by doing so to Israel and not to Hamas, you have made the political choice to back one side.
Yes.
Therefore, you are absolutely explicitly political.
Yeah. Hello, Marcus. Marcus with, I mean, just an absolute nutshot here. The UK will be the grudging sidekick of a collapsing American empire. You're America's Scotland. Oh.
Nah, mate. See, we're not even that good. No, we really aren't. We are. What are we like? What are we like?
America's Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's just depressing.
America's Svalbard.
True. Oh no. God almighty. No, we're like Turkey, who joined the Triple Alliance countries in 1917, just as they were about to collapse and lose. Like, we're that, basically.
That means...
Well, technically the Ottoman Empire, not Turkey, but you get the idea, yeah.
I, Palantir, do not believe that decisions about what's right and wrong, what policy a government should execute, should be made in company boardrooms.
But your founder, Peter Thiel's, like, you know, big friends with Donald Trump, very outspoken about what he's trying to achieve, so you're really not playing...
And an insanely sweaty man. There's no need to be that sweaty. That is a glandular problem.
But then our chief executive is a card-carrying Democrat and was a major donor to Biden and Harris. So we represent that full political spectrum, and I think those decisions need to be made at the ballot box.
So I just got the text-to-speech. I use AI vibe coding for rapid prototyping of cool stuff, but it's no replacement for competent coder, and still needs one to actually know when it's doing the dumb stuff. That's very true. And welcome back, Dark Authority. Good to see you in chat. Thank you for the resub.
And in the courtroom, not company boardrooms.
Okay, we could talk about so much more with you three, but that's fascinating. We'll be back with you at the end of...
Well, that was genuinely one of the most shameful things that Laura Koonsberg has done, including, like, giving a laugh blowjob to David Cameron. No, not David Cameron, Boris Johnson.
Yeah. And giving Boris Johnson the questions.
Yeah. No, that was an accident. How dare you besmirch this award-winning journalist? That was an accident.
But of course, she is indeed an award-winning journalist, so we can't take that away from her.
Exactly, yeah. And that award didn't come with a Happy Meal, so leave her alone.
The programme now, as we saw earlier, by the massive increase in net migration that happened between 2021 and 2023.
Okay.
The Conservative government relaxed visa regulations for many types of workers under Boris Johnson's points-based system, but just at the end of their time in office, they changed the rules again, and it started to come down. Well, the Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp was part of that administration.
Now, Chris Philp is an interesting boy to take on this particular topic. I'm just going to show a little clip. We literally already watched this. We watched this as it went out on Question Time. This is the grasp, the full grasp of the intricate issues of immigration this man has. They were talking about Rwanda, the then Tory government's plan for putting migrants into an offshore detention camp in the country of Rwanda in Africa.
All asylum seekers, not failed asylum seekers, all asylum seekers.
Yeah, even successful ones. Yeah. And this was his amazing grasp of the international situation.
Rwanda. Does that make any sense to you?
No, I think there's an exclusion on people from Rwanda being sent to Rwanda.
They're not from Rwanda, they're from Congo.
They're from Congo.
And they're supposedly
from Congo.
They're supposedly warring these people from Rwanda. Are they then going to be sent to Rwanda if they came here on a crossing?
From
Congo? Yeah.
Would people be sent from... Well, I mean, Rwanda is a different country of Congo, isn't it? It's a different country.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Look at little Wesley and his cheeky little... It's like he's genuinely puzzled.
There's the guy in the audience who just literally does a whole ass face palm on the main camera. It was perfect.
Yeah, where is it? Hang on. Oh. Where is it? I don't know.
It is. Yes. They say if they come to the border in Congo, would they then be sent to Rwanda?
So he's the man who wants to be Foreign Secretary. No, Home Sec. No, was it Home Secretary? Yeah, Home Secretary. Like mental. Man has absolutely no clue what he's doing, but he's now going to tell us about all of the fantastic policies that the Tory Party have. I wonder why Kemi Badenoch is flailing miserably. Shocking, isn't it?
And he is with us here, so it was good to have you with us. Which of the measures that Yvette Cooper is taking do you disagree with? She says she'll cut immigration by 50,000 this year.
Also, he does have the look of a minor Nazi official.
He does. He kind of looks a bit like Eichmann.
There's a bit of Eichmann there, but like, if he was just like Untersturmbannführer Schmerz, like that, yeah, that I believe that. Yeah. He fought for 6 months on the Eastern Front, got injured, and came back. And he was involved in anti-partisan activities, which is not menacing at all.
Well, that frankly is too little. The measures that the last Conservative government took late in its time in office, too late, I would candidly acknowledge, will see migration levels drop by about 400,000 to 500,000. So her little 50,000 tweak, I think, is not enough. We would go further. And tomorrow we intend to push to a vote in Parliament a measure that would have an annual cap on migration voted for and set by Parliament to restore proper democratic accountability, because those numbers...
Okay, and what, again, as with all of these stupid gimmick pieces of legislation, what will be the enforcement mechanism? How will you actually do anything? What will be the punishment, say, for a Home Secretary who doesn't meet that criteria?
And that's the thing, right? So they always try these things, well, the migration cap, and I'm just like, well, like, what happens if you're 2/3 of the way through the year, you have a position where you have a massive labour shortage in a single sector, and you really do need to actually get that done to ensure the economy works as normal? And like, well, no, can't do that, unfortunately. Just have to deal with the economic outflows of what happens because we've hit the cap already.
Or another Ukraine happens, and there are white good immigrants, and therefore we have to allow more people in.
Yeah.
Not brown bad immigrants, just the good white ones. Is literally government policy.
Were far, far too high. That was a mistake. And I think it's actually been bad for our economy to have very large numbers of low-skilled people coming into the country, low skill, low wage, and businesses have, perhaps understandably, reached for that kind of low skill, low wage migration instead of investing in technology, automation and mechanization, and instead of getting some of the 9 million working age adults in this country who are not working into the workforce. Now, our policy is much tougher than Labour's. We're going to put it to a vote tomorrow.
It's super, super, super funny that he talks about the 9 million out of work. When he was in government, he kept quoting their incredibly low unemployment figures, which is true. We had very low unemployment under their government, and then also at the start of this government as well. It's kind of cooled down a bit, but it's still pretty low in terms of unemployment, right? Which is obviously the people seeking work. Those who are too sick to work, however, those who are signed off, that's included in those who are economically inactive, i.e. the 9 million people he's referring to here. Weird how, as soon as he's not in government, suddenly it's massive 9 million people out of work. When he was in government, it's like record low unemployment, even though both of those things basically haven't changed.
But if we get rid of the PIP payments, what we can do is make the now not disabled schizophrenic people clean the arses of the very few people we do claim are now still disabled.
True. Well, the 25% of cancer sufferers.
Yeah, exactly.
Go out and get jobs. Go and replace the immigrants, please.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. You can't clean yourself below the waist, but can you clean somebody else? Oh, I hate the country so much.
But I suspect Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer will vote against
Well,
it.
what would your cap be then? Because you told us 5 months ago that you'd have this idea of a cap. If
Hang
it would
on.
be much.
When you say hang on, is this legislation you intend to introduce as opposition amendment? Because if you say they might, this is a thing I think they'd vote against. You're hypothesising about a situation that won't exist for another 4 years at least.
Well, that's the
Which
thing
means
is
nothing.
that my assumption is that they would do it as an amendment or an opposition day motion specifically.
Yeah.
Because they know that the idea of a migration cap is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
They know it's totally unworkable, completely economically delusional, and is not the way any normal country would function. They don't want to pass it. They don't think that it's good at all. But if they offer it up as an opposition day motion or as an amendment, all they can use it as is as a cudgel to say Labour voted against the cap.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they want, is they want the rhetorical device rather than any actual change in policy.
Yeah. Well, it's what all governments do to a degree. It's this part of a policy we think is politically saleable. Therefore, if you oppose anything to do with our policy, we can say you oppose this bit, right? So the Labour Party do this thing where they'll say, you want us to spend on the NHS, but you opposed our way of doing it. Therefore, you oppose doing it at all. No, it's you cut disability benefits, you cut winter fuel payments and all the rest of it to fund the thing. That's what we oppose. It's not the spending that's the problem. We think the political decision you chose. It's not like they act as if the only way you could achieve this outcome is by doing exactly what we did.
That's true. Although he's right to say that the Conservatives offer up no alternative, because they don't offer up an alternative.
That is also true, yes.
Well, of course, if you want a party that offers an alternative, Green Party want a wealth tax. Just saying. At time of recording.
All right. Jesus.
Tougher, as you say, than Yvette Cooper's cutting 50,000 visas. What would it be?
Well, we're working on the detail to specify that number. I'm not going to shoot from the hip. That work is happening as we speak.
I'm not going to shoot from the hip.
Well, you told us.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do the thing that people don't like about us. I'm not going to tell you the truth or give you any actual information. I'm going to let Nigel Farage do that and then wonder why no one wants to vote for me. Brilliant.
You were going to have a cap.
The
government's now told us how much their cut is going to be. You're not going to tell us how much you would like to see
We are
a cut
working on the detail. I'm not going to shoot from the hip. I'll tell you a couple of things, though. It'll be a further reduction of significantly more than 50,000. It will take the levels substantially further down below the most recent forecasts from the OBS and ONR, which are about 350,000 a year net.
Substantially below.
All that reminds me of is that bit from Alan Partridge. It's like, how many visa reductions have you got? I don't know. I've got 100 visa reductions. Well, I've got 104 visa reductions.
Oh, they're keeping migrants in a shed and feeding them beef burgers. Actually, no, it would have to be immigrant, yeah. No, they're feeding our beef burgers to the migrants.
Yes, well, if you feed the immigrants, they'll float better if they sink in the channel.
Jesus Christ.
I'm so sorry, Jack.
Oh.
I've made some really dark jokes that I wouldn't usually make this evening.
I'm a bad influence. Chat, don't judge No Justice. It's entirely my fault. I'm a bad influence.
Lower than that, and the further reductions, the further cuts, will be more than 50,000. We need to slash the levels of legal migration. It has been far too high. We've been dependent, we've become dependent as a country on mass low-skill migration. That's created pressure on public services. It's undermined social cohesion. And it's also, I think, one of the reasons why our productivity in this country, per hour worked or per person, has stagnated for quite a long time.
But then
because let me finish the point, because companies have reached for low-skill migration instead of investing in technology and automation.
But it's interesting, both the Home Secretary and you have said quite explicitly sometimes immigration in too big numbers can be bad for the economy. But what do you say to a business, you know, the Conservatives, traditionally the party of business, and you're saying, well, you're not going to be able to get that kind of staff if you need them. Tough. You set a hard cap.
Well, we are going to set a hard cap. We're going to put that to a vote in Parliament, and I expect Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer will vote against it.
You said that already. So what do you say to businesses who might go, hang on a minute, I need staff, and if I can't get people in this country, they might not live locally, they might not have the right skills. What do you say to them? People who desperately need workers.
I would say three things. I would say, firstly, invest more in technology and automation. We've heard about AI and the impact that's going to have already. Take an example, South Korea.
So in South Korean, not people.
In South Korean manufacturing, they have 9 times the density of robotic automation that we do. So instead of importing huge numbers of low-wage migrants, instead invest in that technology.
So yes, so have robots, not people.
Yes, to avoid being dependent on mass low-skill migration. Secondly...
So with this having mentioned Korea, it's starting to sound a little bit juche. A little bit self-reliance is key.
Absolutely. Let's go. Although to be fair, we don't. To be fair, we do have our own dying empire to back us up.
True, and we already have a lineage of corrupt wankers.
Literally, we do have a dynasty of permanent political classes who continually control the country that you can never escape from. Yeah. Literally, we are North Korea, and of course we also have the dear leader. Business you are not allowed to criticise.
True. And Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un?
The dictator of Europe.
Let's work on getting some of those 9 million working age adults
Here we go.
off benefits and out of economic activity.
They all do. They've all got these fucking pre-prepared lines. It's so frustrating. Because you know they've been hit the 9 million thing. Say 9 million a lot. It sounds scary and bad.
And especially given, he said, are those 9 million off of benefits? As was pointed out by Optimistic Nihilist in chat, students and carers and loads of other people who are not on benefits but who are economically inactive are included in that grouping.
Yep. But he doesn't care. He's a wanker. But thankfully, he will never be Home Secretary because Kemi Badenoch isn't going to win. And presumably at some point, either the Tory party literally dies, which might be true, or it will get its act together and get rid of just human detritus like this. They have to get someone with a brain cell somewhere. Fucking hell. Are Rwanda and Congo the same country? It sounds like a fucking a dumb Britain answer.
It sounds like something you'd find on Not the 9 O'Clock News.
Yeah, it's mad.
Into the workforce. Now, we're not going to get all of those into the workforce. Some are studying, some have caring responsibilities. But many of those 9 million, probably something in the order of 5 million, could, and in my view, should be brought into the workforce and trained up instead of importing cheap labour. In the care sector, for example, it only takes a few weeks to train somebody up. We should not be...
Oh, fuck. Bollocks, shithouse, wank, fuck. Anyway, it only takes a few weeks. In what capacity does it only take a few weeks? Mr.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Explicitly, sometimes immigration in too big numbers can be bad for.
Hang on a minute. I don't know where the fuck we were. Sorry, chat. I fucked that up. I'll move the thing. I don't know.
Down below the most recent forecasts from the OBS and ONR, which are about 300. That's created pressure on public services. It's undermined social.
Well, you're not going to be able to get that kind of staff if you need them. Tough. You set a hard cap.
Well, we are going to set a hard cap. We're going to put that to a vote in Parliament, and I expect Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer will vote against it.
You said that already. So what do you say to businesses who might go, hang on a minute, I need staff, and if I can't get people in this country, they might not live locally, they might not have the right skills. What do you say to them? People who desperately need workers.
I would say three things. I would say, firstly, invest more in technology and automation. We've heard about AI and the impact that's going to have already. Take an example, South Korea.
In South Korea, not people.
In South Korea, plans to reduce the burden of taxation on business. Business has been hit with the biggest tax rise in 30 years by Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. That £25 billion NI increase, that is already destroying jobs and putting some companies
taxation
out
had
of
already
work.
gone up to record levels under the Conservatives, and Labour has indeed put it up more, but it had already absolutely soared, much to the horror of some people in Europe.
It's still lower than loads of other countries in Europe. Who fucking cares? Pay your taxes.
It was a mistake, and this new leadership will take a different approach. And my message to business is that we are on your side. We will develop plans to get that tax burden back down. It is already destroying jobs. It is lowering wages, according to the OBR. It's causing our growth to be slashed. The growth forecast has been slashed, all thanks to Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer.
So you were wrong
we will
about
be
tax.
back on businesses' side.
So you were wrong about tax. You were wrong about migration. Were you also wrong to sign contracts with accommodation providers that run until 2029?
For fuck's sake. The Tories really were absolute shithouses.
Terrible.
Honest to God. 2029.
Well, to be fair, that's at least a more reasonable time period than our commitment to funding Ukraine.
I mean, that's 100 years is fucking silly. Like Britain's going to exist in 100 years. Behave yourself.
To house asylum seekers in towns around the country, was that a mistake, using hotels for people coming here illegally?
Well, I think the reason that people are in hotels is that large numbers, principally because large numbers of illegal immigrants are crossing the English Channel. So the answer to the hotel problem and to the accommodation problem...
Stop the boats! Oh, fuck. Just the fucking dialogue in this country is cancer.
...is to stop illegal immigration across the Channel. Now, we've seen... Let me just finish the point. We've seen other countries successfully do this. Australia, about 10 or 15 years ago, with their Operation Sovereign Borders, where they returned illegal immigrants...
Oh, is that the way they set up the concentration camps, where the inmates were literally killing themselves and sewing their lips shut?
That's exactly what happened, yes.
Don't know that we want to copy that, really. That sounds like a bad
clearly
situation.
the public have fucking appetite for that shit.
That is true. But that means they need to go to the re-education camps being run by Kim Jong-un.
To a safe third country. We've seen America, in just the last few months, successfully get control of their southern border for the first time.
Whoa! So literally your plan is to remove, due process?
Yeah, fuck it. Hang on. Which authoritarian regime do you think Chris Philp has in his mind for deporting people without due process to?
Well, we don't have El Salvador on our doorstep, but we do have Albania. And they're safe to send people. Libya?
Libya!
Yeah.
That's not even an autocratic regime. There is no regime. It's just a fucking mess.
Exactly. And Kazakhstan. Let's go.
Well, I was trying to think. I'm going to bring up a map. I'm going to have a look and see what autocratic regimes that we can potentially have on our deportation list, who's close by, who's easy for us to be able to send people to.
Well, if the AFD take over Germany... Although they won't want them, will they? Yeah.
Should we send people to Mauritania?
Oh, let's go. Let's go. Was it that? No, it was Morocco who took over Western Sahara, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Now, we had a plan in government. What I would concede...
So do you praise what Donald Trump has been doing in terms of those deportations, including some pretty controversial ways of deporting people without them having access to the courts? Do you support that?
So I'm not condoning the detail of every single deportation in the US.
Okay, do you support the general move to authoritarianism then?
He can't even explicitly condemn the removal of due process.
No.
People who've literally had protections from deportation being sent to a fucking El Salvadorian gulag.
Yeah.
What?
Mad.
He's cooked. This is cooked.
Yeah, this is mad.
Hate this country.
Also, of course he doesn't mind that, because Donald Trump's only breaking the law in specific and limited ways. So it's fine. They gave up on the rule of law a long time ago.
What I am saying is there is a principle which I think does work, and we've seen it work in Australia, which is that if somebody arrives into a country like the UK illegally by small boat, if they know they're going to be removed somewhere else, for example...
So you're saying that you want to remove them to a third country if they arrive illegally? Okay, so people who don't claim asylum, which is like fucking nobody. They claim asylum. That's why they're arriving via irregular means, which is perfectly legal.
Yeah, but this is why he doesn't mind removing due process, because he's already said they're illegal. Forgetting, of course, that due process is the way you decide if someone is illegal or not.
True.
But if he's already decided, fucking Judge Dredd over here has decided, and so they need to be jettisoned to Rwanda or maybe Congo, although is there any difference? Who knows?
Well, exactly. So therefore we end up in the situation where he is essentially giving credence to Donald Trump's like defiance of the court in terms of his illegal deportations. Because he's very happy for those to continue, because he wants to strip due process away by treating people who want to claim asylum as illegal when it's not.
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump really is just the fucking the conservative id. Like he's what they want to say.
Yeah.
They all want to be Donald Trump. It's just that very few can, because very few populations are as fucking dense as the red states of America.
Well, they just wanted somebody to give them an excuse to be the nasty motherfuckers that they always knew that they were.
Well, yeah, I mean, literally, hard-hearted children. Fine. Yeah, we'll raise money for that. That's what conservatism is at its core.
Example Rwanda, but it could be somewhere else, then they're not going to attempt the crossing. And we had that policy ready to go. The first flight was due to take off at the end of July, but Keir Starmer cancelled it. And as a result of that, 2025 so far, this year, has been the worst year in history for illegal small boat crossings
we've discussed that.
they cancelled.
No, I mean, the Vikings would take some beating on that, I think.
I know they were coming in. They were coming in large boats, though, Kev.
Not really. They were. I mean, they were long, certainly. Literally called long boats, but I don't know if you can count as large boats. They're not ships, are they?
No, true.
Also, I mean, they were better constructed than the current boats they're sending. And, of course, not using rubber means those dogs would be fucking useless against the Vikings. Just saying.
Saw that plan.
And we've discussed that on many occasions with both Labour and Tory politicians. I just wonder, on the specific, though, the under new leadership, you're always telling us you're going to be honest about your mistakes. I'll ask you again, was it a mistake to make a decision in 2019 to start housing asylum seekers in hotels in towns around the country? Was that a mistake?
I think there was a more fundamental mistake, which was to not have a Rwanda scheme in place at the beginning, which would have stopped it happening in the first place.
No, answer the question. Answer the fucking question. Yeah. Like, literally, this was their own policy. So, previously, they were housed in residential accommodation. Then they changed it to hotels, which not only it concentrated them in specific areas, which meant that they were a much bigger target, right? If there was a dispersal plan like there was before they used hotels, they wouldn't have been the target specifically that could create the kind of riots that we saw last year, these flashpoints. Of course, it's almost like they wanted this to happen because it cost them more money. Yep. It costs stratospherically more to house them in hotels than it did to put them in residential accommodation like the government now is going back to. Yeah. Right? You can't even trust these people to be fiscally responsible because they never have been, of course, ever. The Tories have always been fiscally irresponsible. But even on these things, right, they are spending your money. They are spending public money to try and foment race riots because they think it'll help their chance of re-election. Right? It's the most insane pork barreling you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Of Keir Starmer to cancel the Rwanda scheme before it started, and we would reintroduce either that scheme or something very similar if we get back into office. Okay, well, and then you wouldn't need hotels.
Yay, we can build more public housing in downtown Kigali.
Literally. We can build more council housing in Kigali than we can in Keighley.
True.
Okay, well, you've not quite given us an answer on that, but it's always good to have you.
Then ask the question again.
Busy week.
Yeah.
Then ask the question again. What are you doing, Laura? You're an award-winning journalist, allegedly. If he's not answering the question, fucking get him to bloody answer.
Look how long the section is for Youngblood. No offence, Youngblood, but like, why is he on this show? Ask this wanker why he fucked everything up.
He's the Shadow Home Secretary. He needs to be held fucking accountable. That's your job. Right? You've just done a big puff piece for literally a representative of Evil Incorporated, getting them to be able to explain why selling the NHS to Palantir is great. And now you've got the Shadow Home Secretary on, who you're supposed to be scrutinising, and then saying, "Oh, we didn't answer my question, but I guess we'll move on then." No, fucking... Did you threaten to overrule him? Go Paxman.
Yeah. Well, there's the Youngblood section, which we don't give a fuck about. And do we even care about the last bit here, really?
No, not really.
Not really. I think we're done. It's midnight.
Yeah, we've been going for 3 hours now, and I'm quite tired.
Yeah. Me too.
Remember, of course, to support... remember to support the channels on Patreon, patreon.com/NoJusticeMTG, and I believe you have a Patreon as well.
I do indeed, yes. Good, lovely day-to-day reference. Laura, you lost the news! True. Very much so. Laura O'Hanrahan.
Peter and Hanrahan is amazing. We love him.
We stand. Anyway, yeah, go and check out No Justice of the MTGs on all of the platforms.
And also go and follow KF Logan 1875 over on Twitch and Kevin Logan on the YouTubes as well. Go and follow. We command you to do so.
Yes, literally. Okay, who's going on Twitch? I'm going to go to some random geek who is a regular in my chat. So,
lovely. I'm going to send people on the YouTubes over into Al Jazeera because there is no one live.
Because you love terrorism. Clearly.
There's just literally nobody live on YouTube for me otherwise to be able to raid into. Over on Twitch, I'm going to send you into Cosmopolitics because she looks like she is... I mean, she keeps tweeting about how she needs help paying her bills. So I'm going to go and send her your way so you can contribute to her should you wish to.
Yes, indeed. Go and check out Cosmopolitics. He was a good person as well.
Yes, indeed she is. Thank you very much, everyone. As always, take care and stay safe. And last of all...
Free Palestine.
Front Rivet to Sea. Bye-bye.
Bye.